Okay, good morning, everyone. I call the August 27th, 2024 meeting of the DuPage County Board to order. I invite everyone to stand and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. Member Yu, will you please lead us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, I now invite Pastor Scott Howington from Pleasant Hill Community Church in Wheaton to lead us in the invocation.
Let's pray. Almighty God, in this moment we are keenly aware of the high privilege and high responsibility of leadership. I thank you this morning for each one in this room who is here today representing the citizens of their respective districts. I thank you today for the many people who serve this county as employees on this campus and out in the field for their hard work day in and day out. I thank you for the citizens of DuPage County who work together to help one another thrive and grow. I thank you for the privilege of living and working and rearing our families in DuPage County. The Holy Scriptures instruct us to pray for all those in authority, and so we do that today. As this meeting continues, I pray for each one here as they conduct the business of our county. May you grant them wisdom to govern with fairness and justice. Grant them discernment as they manage the welfare and needs of the citizens of our county. Grant understanding as they navigate the complexities of county government. Grant them the ability to work together for the common good of all and the willingness to find common ground even when there might be honest disagreement. May each one today have a sense of satisfaction that they have exercised the privilege and responsibility of leadership with excellence and integrity. I ask today, God, that you bless the DuPage County Board. I ask that you bless the many women and men who work day in and day out for the good of this county. I ask that you bless the more than 900,000 men, women, and children who call DuPage County home. Almighty God, hear our prayer today. Amen.
Please be seated, and clerk, will you please take the roll?
Cahill. Here. Chaplin.
Here.
Childress.
Yes.
Covert.
Here.
Dessart. Here. Eckhoff. Here. Evans.
Here.
Galassi. Here. Garcia. Here. Guston. Here. Krajewski. Here. LaPlante. Here. Ozog. Here. Rutledge. Here. Schwarzy. Here. Tornatori. Here. You.
Here.
And Zay.
Okay, this morning we have a proclamation celebrating Workforce Development Month, and I'd like to invite Lisa Shavak, member Lynn LaPlante, WorkNet staff, and Jane Clark to the podium. Okay, this morning our colleagues from WorkNet DuPage join us to celebrate National Workforce Development Month. The primary objective of WorkNet is to connect job seekers with the resources, job search strategies, and job skills needed for employment in high-demand areas of our local economy. By accomplishing this, they strengthen the local workforce and business communities while empowering residents, including young adults and those with significant obstacles to employment, in their search for meaningful careers and economic stability. We have certainly seen their creative approach to reaching out to job seekers during the COVID crisis. They also won a NACO award for the Back to School, Back to Work program, bringing stay-at-home parents back into the workforce. I'll read our proclamation and then let member LaPlante, Lisa, and their guests say a few words. Whereas, investment in the education, training, and career advancement of DuPage County's workforce is crucial to the ability of the county and state to compete in the global economy and to achieve economic equity. And whereas DuPage County employers need more workers with in-demand skills to meet the needs of their business and communities. Whereas aligning the workforce development system with employer needs and preparing job seekers to enter family-sustaining employment are among the strategies to address employment and economic disparities based on race, disability, age, gender, veteran status, national origin, or justice system involved. And whereas DuPage County's Workforce Development Division at WorkNet DuPage and its partners help keep job seekers identifying their interests and skills and assist them in developing a job search strategy leading to fulfilling employment. Whereas DuPage County Workforce Development Board, the board prioritizes collaboration among industry partners, workforce development entities, educational institutions, labor unions, and community-based organizations, which is critical to preparing a workforce to meet the labor needs. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Deborah A. Conroy, Chair of the DuPage County Board, and members of the County Board do hereby recognize the month of September of 2024 as Workforce Development Month in DuPage County and express our sincere appreciation to our Workforce Development Board and WorkNet DuPage for their service to DuPage County employers, job seekers, and residents. Do I have a motion? Second? All in favor? Aye. Okay, enacted this 27th day of August, 2024 in Wheaton, Illinois.
Hi, everyone. As Chair of Economic Development, it is such an honor to work with WorkNet DuPage and with Lisa Shavad especially. She's has such a deep grasp of the information that is needed for this subject. She can speak about it extemporaneously. If you ask her a question out of left field, she can provide basically a dissertation without any notes. That is how deep her institutional knowledge is. Like so many of our county staff, they really know their business inside and out, from the top to the bottom, and especially in their heart. As a mom of 4 who took time off to raise kids and re-enter the workforce, I am especially enamored with our Back to School, Back to Work program. It's been an unbelievable success, and I can't wait to see how much better it gets even from here, because this is just starting. So I really encourage all of you to share the information about Back to School, Back to Work with your constituents, and anyone who's watching, please do look into it. It's a thrill to work with WorkNet and with Lisa. Here you go.
So I'm not going to take any questions here today and provide a dissertation. But on behalf of my amazing team, many of whom I brought here with me today, as well as Jane Clark of National Lease, who serves as our Workforce Innovation Board Chair, it is an honor to receive this proclamation here this morning, truly. Workforce development can be any initiative that aims to educate and train people to meet the needs of the business community. What we do specifically at WorkNet DuPage in our capacity as the Workforce Development Division of the county is administer the federally funded Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act programs. And day in and day out, our outstanding staff work with job seekers and businesses throughout the county to start or advance careers, to increase families' economic standing, to strengthen local employers. You guys know we periodically like to share testimonials and success stories, and today we brought, I'd like to introduce friend of WorkNet, Ann Lesko, to share a few words about the impact that workforce development programs have had on her life. Ann?
Hi. So I started WorkNet DuPage about 6 years ago, and prior to WorkNet, I was working, dead-end customer service jobs, and there was no way I could get student loans to go to school. So thanks to WorkNet, they gave me a grant, and I was able to go get my welding certificate at College of DuPage. I got a very high GPA there. I went on to start working in a tool and die shop in Addison, where I got a lot of good experience, but it wasn't the best fit. And I actually was reached out to by the welding program head at College of DuPage, Dave Ellis, who offered me a teaching position. So it's kind of come full circle. I still work in shops. I'm out at a shop in Joliet now called OmniGear. I run CNC lathes and program them, making gearing for different companies. And I also am an adjunct welding professor at College of DuPage now. And even more, thank you. And it's also been great too, because I've had a few students from WorkNet DuPage. They brought me the hour verification sheet, and I'm like, oh man, I know what this is. I remember when I used to do this, but it's a great organization, and I would not be where I am today without them. So thank you.
Okay, on the matter of public comment, according to our county board rules, members of the public shall be afforded time to address the board. Individual remarks shall not exceed 3 minutes each. And the first speaker is?
Rose Coons.
Good morning. My name is Rose Kunze, and I am president of the Westwind Homeowners Association. I'm here today to speak on behalf of our membership. For those unfamiliar with Westwind, we have been in existence for 50-plus years and are an information sharing organization that encompasses approximately 700 homes in the unincorporated area bounded by Warrenville, West Chicago, Wheaton, and Winfield. Our mission statement is preserving the ambiance of our area. Westwind originally heard about petition T224 regarding accessory dwelling units when it was submitted to the Zoning Board of Appeals. We distributed copies of the proposal to our membership along with a brief survey to gauge the opinions of our members. A 10% response to this survey was received, which we believe is very compelling when compared to other surveys conducted by the county. All respondents expressed strong opposition to the proposed amendment changes. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being strongly agree to 10 being strongly oppose, our responses averaged 9.9 strongly opposed. We asked members their opinion of the petition in 3 questions, asking if they agreed or disagreed with the changes. These questions and responses are paraphrased as follows. 1, should ADUs be taxed at a rate different from primary residences since occupants of both require the same services from the county? The response, 100% feel ADUs should receive the same treatment as a primary residence. 2, should parcels zoned residential be permitted to have 2 residences on a single parcel, primary and ADU? Response, 100% believe single-family zoning is exactly what it says and that multiple residences on a single parcel should not be permitted. 3, do you feel that the proposed changes are fair to all residents and can be reasonably enforced? Response, 100% believe that the changes are not fair and cannot be enforced by the county. We also received multiple written comments with our survey returns, which were emailed to county board members on August 25th. We hope that you've read those comments prior to casting your vote today. All comments were negative and opposed this ordinance, which is now DCO 005624 on today's county board agenda. Westwind requests that any county board member that either currently has an ADU or anticipates constructing one recuse themselves and abstain from voting as a matter of conflict of interest. In closing, Westwind respectfully requests that all county board members consider the opinions and concerns of their constituents when deciding how to cast their votes. Our survey responses and opinions are overwhelmingly against the proposed changes. Thank you.
Connie Schmidt.
My name is Connie Schmidt. Can I just have a thumbs up? Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Dr. Seuss famously said, "I speak for the trees have no tongues," in his book, The Lorax, where careless acts by humans devoid their world of trees by taking advantage of them for human gain and desire. That's pretty dramatic. It's a very dramatic comparison. But human action is impacting our planet. It is changing it on a large scale, as well as the microcosm of pollinator habitats in our own backyards. I am asking you to vote no on changing your zoning to allow more beehives on county property because it is the responsible thing to do. Yes, I know less than half of the municipalities in DuPage do allow hives in the county, but that hardly makes it right to add more hives in a condensed area. The Forest Preserve District is researching this issue with significant effort. They have hired dogs to help them identify nesting sites where they can protect them. Introducing additional competition and the threat of disease and parasites from additional honeybee colonies, possibly endangering our native bees, does not seem to be an environmental vote. Our native bees are important for pollinating food that we eat, like the delicious tomatoes I'm sure are hanging from many of your garden vines right now. Let's pause and allow more research. Please vote no on this issue. And one last note, I am very grateful for the huge number of you who I've talked to, who've returned my calls, who really are looking at this in a thoughtful manner. And I thank you. I thank you for your research, and I thank you for your concern.
Lisa McNicholas.
I am by far an expert on this. A couple years ago, I'm here for the bees, okay? A couple years ago, I realized my yard, and I'm in downtown Lombard, had less and less bees. I didn't see bumblebees, I didn't see wasps, I didn't see honeybees, whereas prior to that, I saw all sorts of bees. I have lots of natural flowers in my yard, and less and less and less. On top of that, my daughter's best friend is now in Minnesota researching how to self-pollinate because they are so worried about bees. With that said, I took a class with Pete here up at Yerkes Observatory and got involved with the bees. And I now have 2 hives on my yard. And you know what? This is the first year I have seen not only honeybees, but bumblebees and wasps and hornets and all kinds of pollinators back in my yard. I have not seen that until I put the bees there. So I don't know research-wise what that means. I know there's an issue with the rusty patch bumble. I will tell you what I've read, it has more to do with everybody using pesticides and everybody taking up more development land. If they don't have the space to nest, they won't nest. Bumblebees, my understanding, is the vast majority of bumblebees do not live the winter. Only the queen does. So if that's the case, if you take away land for them, they're not going to make it through the winter. So I would ask you to allow more hives. I think they're wonderful. They're a great learning tool for not only adults, but for children. I have my grandkids involved as well now. They're not afraid of bees. They're all excited about it. So support the bees. Don't take things away. Thank you.
Nadine Rohr.
Hi, I'm Nadine Rohr. You might remember me from the last meeting. I'm an ecologist, and I support beekeeping for a variety of reasons. I've been gathering information, and I know that people have been gathering information, but may I just plant this thought in your minds, being a scientist, that many of you are familiar with how we've navigated issues around climate change. People get passionate about these things. Some people believe the data, some people don't really believe the data. And I feel that this might be an issue that's comparable to that, because depending on what information you select, and how you read and interpret it will allow you to make the case. And obviously, I've gathered information and selected that to make a case to support beekeeping, being a biologist, but I'm also hopefully open to learning from my colleagues and others. And I'm a member of Xerxes Society, and if you go to their site and read things, they're not opposed to beekeeping. They just suggest ways of going about it and suggest caution. Do we have definitive studies that document that diseases are spread by honeybees that harm the rusty patch and other bumblebees? No, we don't. There are suggestions. There are studies that are done, and I can leave this again with you, that suggest that. But I encourage us to consider research in our county. And our county is, I looked up the numbers to look at how many hives we have. The Department of Agriculture, we haven't updated that since 2020. So we're a little behind on knowing how many hives and where those are. So I suggest we work with people perhaps in Cook County, and there's a person who's graduated from Northwestern, Dan Sanka says. He works for the Department of Natural Resources for Lake County Forest. I suggest that perhaps we consult Sydney Cameron. She's Emeritus Department of Entomology, University of Illinois. May Berenbaum, she's on the chair of Xerxes Society. She is also just south down in the state. I mentioned Dr. Perry Keatsman at Olivet University, who I've just visited yesterday. She said that her colleagues, they are putting in a National Science Foundation grant in the upcoming months to look at pollinators, beekeepers, spread of diseases, genetic population dynamics of all these bees, if you will. So I love Dr. Seuss too. I'm passionate about that. I use that in my teaching a lot. But again, I just encourage us all to be open to the information that's there. I agree with what's been presented from Connie. Yes, buzz pollinators for your tomatoes, your eggplants, and your blueberries. But what are the top 3 agricultural items in Illinois?
Ms. Rohr, your 3 minutes are up.
Soybean, corn, and swine. Soybean and all other plants are self-pollinators or do not need buzz pollination. So there are things for us to consider, and I just ask that we all be open to that.
Ralph Watt.
Hello, my name is Ralph Watt, and I'm here to talk a little bit about what was petition T224 under the ZBA, which is now on your agenda, DC 0056-24. And I have to say that when I heard about it, the first thing I did was read the original ordinance that was modified here. And quite frankly, I agreed that the original ordinance could be updated. However, after reading the petition, my opinion changed drastically. And at the ZBA meeting, just to give you an example, I know the ZBA vote was 5-0, but at the same time, there were about 30 people at the ZBA meeting, and everyone who spoke was strongly opposed. And there were a lot of reasons presented at that meeting, which I think is worthwhile to take a look at. I also fear that this thing could actually change the very nature of our neighborhoods. And quite frankly, I don't think the county staff is organized, has sufficient people, or the will, honestly, to administer or enforce the requirements of this ordinance. I don't know if Mr. Paul Haas is here, but I had 3 questions that came out of it since he seemed to be the authority on it. One, at the beginning of this ordinance, it says that the policy is to create affordable housing in diverse neighborhoods. He stated multiple times at the ZBA meeting that this ordinance applies only to existing structures. There will be no new structures allowed underneath this ordinance. Well, if this is correct, how does this achieve the stated objective of the policy, since nothing new is going to be allowed? It seems to be a contradiction. Second, much is stated in the petition about the expiration of conditional use. Specifically, section 314 417.3 on the middle of page 6 states that the conditional use permit will expire if an affidavit is not filed in accordance with 317.2.I. However, the ordinance you have in front of you eliminated 317.2.I. Therefore, how in the world is expiration carried out if you eliminated the provision that stated that? Third, there's several things in this ordinance which include, for example, maximum of 5 occupants between the primary and the ADU. That the beneficial owner must either occupy or be either the primary home or the ADU. And 3, that the ADUs must not be rented or leased for less than 6 months. And quite honestly, I cannot for the life of me, and I've been in this county for 60 years, I can't figure out how the county could possibly administer these provisions, nor even come close to enforcing these provisions. For these reasons, I really don't believe this petition is viable, and I strongly oppose it. Thank you.
Charles Ingram.
Been a DuPage County member for 70 years. I've lived my whole life in county. I've had bees since I was 10 years old, so I've had honeybees for 60 years. And the honeybee population in our county is going down, not up. I support having more honeybees. With all the insecticides and everything that have been in all of our stores and that neonicotinoids and stuff like that, it's a constant fight to keep our honeybees alive, much less increasing the amount that we have. The native pollinators are struggling with all of these insecticides also. It's not the fault of the honeybees. There are plenty of pollination that can go around for all the bees. And again, I've noticed the decrease in a lot of vegetables and fruit and stuff like that. I've got 30 fruit trees, and because of the pollinators being harmed by all these insecticides all around us, we actually need more. So I would like to see the propagation of more honeybees in our county. Thank you.
Dennis Wisnowski.
Good morning. Dennis Wisnowski. I'm a resident in Naperville for the last 40 years. I'm representing the Will County Beekeepers Association. Well, I have my bees there, but I have had them in Naperville on Donwood Drive. I had them, I took them away and put them on the prairie. When I moved there 42 years ago, the houses were 3,000 to 4,000 square foot houses. That should be enough. Now they're 15 to 20,000 square foot houses. They tore down houses like mine. And what they've done is have contract insecticide sprayers, contract herbicide sprayers. I not only couldn't have bees there, I see no butterflies. I see no wasp. I see no bugs at all. The problem, if you want to regulate something, and I'm in favor of changing the ordinance, if you want to regulate something, regulate the people who spray the herbicides indiscriminately, people who spray the pesticides indiscriminately, and require these people building these giant houses to plant some native shrubberies, some native pollinator type plants, not turf grass. Problem that you think you're going to cure will go away by doing those things. Thank you.
Pete Soltes.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Pete Soltes. I'm the president of the DuPage Beekeepers Association, and I support the proposed ordinance of lifting the ban on honeybees. This is my third visit in front of you all, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Opponents to the ordinance have told us honeybees are not native. Honeybees are livestock. Honeybee populations are at the highest they've ever been. Honeybees compete for the same limited scarce resources as native bees. Honeybees act as vectors for pathogens. There are insufficient resources to inspect hives in the county. and the poor rusty patch is in trouble, and the honeybee is to blame for it. They want you to believe that if we allow this ordinance, there will be an explosion in honeybee populations and the rusty patch will be gone forever. Board members have expressed to me privately, board members in this room, that they are afraid of the Sierra Club and don't want to piss them off. Okay? I'm going to put it out there. I'll let you know what I'm hearing. What we need is not fear, but rational leadership. Okay? Let us not discount the fact that the honeybee is a remarkable ambassador for the pollinator community. Beekeepers plant native plants, not ornamentals. They do not buy Roundup to spray their weeds. They inspect their hives frequently and treat them if needed, just as you would take your dog to a vet. They leave native pollinators alone, wasps, yellow jackets, hornets, carpenter bees, and bumblebees, because they understand that each species plays an important role in our fragile ecology. They consume the honey, the wax, the propolis, and share it with friends. They sell bees to people with Lyme's disease and Parkinson's for apitherapy. Yes, being stung by a bee is therapeutic. It reduces inflammation, heals arthritis, and provides relief for Lyme's and Parkinson's. In fact, did you know that the 2024 National Apitherapy Conference is being held here in Chicago just a few weeks from now? I agree, the rusty patch is in trouble, but don't blame other pollinators. Bumblebees have their own immune systems, and their immune systems are being compromised by the pesticides, the herbicides, and the fungicides that are laden in the environment they're exposed to. Their immune systems are not being compromised by other bees. Honeybees exhibit deformed wing viruses, can't fly, okay? They are born with the condition and they can't leave the hive. Bumblebees are being exposed to imported bumblebees carrying a whole host of diseases. And when they go outside in a pesticide-heavy environment, they get sick. There's an active trade in bumblebees. They are bought and sold in quad packs. It's far more likely that one bumblebee will pass a pathogen along to another bumblebee than it is likely a honeybee will pass it on to a bumblebee. And not only is there active trade in bumblebees, there's also an active trade in mason, leafcutter, and other native bees as well. Did you know also that pest control companies in DuPage County, pest control companies on a frequent and regular basis spray bumblebee nests with pesticides and exterminate them? I got a call yesterday. I visited with a resident yesterday.
Mr. Soltis, your 3 minutes is expired.
Thank you. Her dad sprayed the bumblebees. That's not a honeybee problem, folks. Thank you.
Dick Rupes.
I'm Dick Rooney. I've been a resident for 36 years. My wife and I got into honeybees about 17 years ago. And I'll go along with what's been said. The habitat is the most important. We have a 10-acre Legion property in Downers. We now have 3 of that 10 acres and expanding more with natives. It's not an either or. You can have both. Many of the natives have 1 or 2 species only that they require for it. So we plant nothing but natives. And at home we've done the same thing. The immediate neighbors, I've won them over with honey, and they now don't spray their yards, not mosquitoes, not anything. Woodridge, Illinois, was where we live. They have an entomologist, actual scientist that comes around, and they won't spray and defog mosquitoes. All the grass we had at the Legion, 10 acres of sterile, barren habitat. Now we're seeing things. As we did this, we saw an exponential rise in native pollinators. They don't compete with each other. Bees are generalists. Natives have specific. We even have yuccas, a type of moth, it can only thrive with yuccas. So it's habitat. As far as the neonicotinoids and others, they've been outlawed in Europe for quite some time, but Bayer, we're pharmacists, both of us retired, so we did a little science. It's about big money. We want to research it more. It's proven beyond a doubt that neonicotinoids, they're not needed. We don't put anything on that 10 acres, nor the surrounding neighborhood where I live. So we've had an increase of things. It's logical, and as a side benefit, we've raised $54,000 in scholarships for young people by donation for our honey. So I see nothing but a symbiotic relationship, and I don't think we need to worry about honeybees causing any of this damage. Thank you.
Steve Archer.
Good morning. My name is Steve Archer. I'm a United States Marine, a veteran, disabled, OIF, 99 to 04. I'm a beekeeping member of Cook DuPage Beekeeping Association, an urban farmer. I grow food and give it away. I'm the winner of the Veteran Farmer of the Year Award for 2024. After becoming disabled, my doctor told me that I needed to take care of something, just like I did when I was in the service. Just like I did when I was in the service, I needed to take care of something. That thing was bees. And so I began moving forward, and I was able to continue. There are many things that I can talk to you today about. One of those things is Hives for Heroes. Hives for Heroes is a national organization that uses beekeeping as therapy to help those of us veterans who would otherwise be part of those statistics that don't survive our post-traumatic stress disorder. I could speak to you about the health benefits of honey, or even the studies that suggest that beekeepers live longer and happier lives. There's been much discussion about the competitive pressures that the European bee causes on native bee populations. The European bee has been here since 1700. They're not likely the cause. The world is currently experiencing an insect apocalypse. We're losing more species than just the native bees. I'm old enough to remember a time when I could go outside in fall and see the monarch butterflies flying to Mexico. I remember nights where the sky was lit up by lightning bugs, right? I remember moths banging fruitlessly against the lamps. Yet, we're supposed to believe that the honeybees that we keep are the cause of the native species depopulation. A lawn that looks like a golf course that receives weed and feed 2 to 3 times a year with chemicals that are detrimental to all biological life have an equal, if not greater, impact on insect populations. The reality is that even if we choose to limit bees, it will not decrease what is happening in our environment. It is my hope that no one would want to remove from the environment a species that is responsible, by some estimates, of increasing farm yields by as much as $15 billion per year, and on a micro level, saving veterans' lives. It is with a heavy heart that I say we will not likely save our environment or native species by banning beekeepers. It is only through research that we will discover that planting native flowers, like some of my fellow beekeepers, pollinator gardens, and leaving lots of wild spaces, that we can allow nature to recover. Thank you.
Keith Miser.
I'm Keith Miser. I'm born in Hinsdale Hospital, grew up in Downers Grove, spent most of my life in DuPage County, and I'm old enough to remember when we had many small farms, and DuPage County made a concerted effort to turn those into subdivisions. And now we have wiped out most of the native habitat. So I'm not going to quote a lot of any statistics. I'll just give you some observations. For those who are afraid of having bee operations next to their homes, I've had dozens of neighbors throughout the years. I started in 1972. I've never had a single complaint that involved honeybees. Had 1 or 2 that involved yellow jackets that were in their house, but they weren't honeybees. I do a lot of education. I take observation hive out to schools, other venues, and I just spent 5 days at the Will County Fair talking to thousands of people that came by, and talked a lot about native bees and habitat. That's the #1 thing. We're focused on one bumblebee that's other, the rusty patch bumblebee, which has other factors that are reducing it. And all this talk about tomatoes outside, they get wind pollinated. They have no nectar. Honeybees aren't interested in them. That's kind of a red herring. Besides, where the bumblebees are responsible is in commercial greenhouses. Those are spreading, those are bumblebees that are in commerce, shipped across the ocean. Lots of opportunities for getting diseases in there. They're also not native to this area. The ones that are being used commercially are from Oregon. So they don't belong here either, but they escape from the, and have contact with our local bumblebees. One thing that's not considered, and there's apparently no research going on, and that is in regard to habitat, bumblebees always nest in a rodent nest. They never dig. So we've had increase in coyotes. They eat mice, chipmunks, no nest. No nest for a bumblebee, what happens? No bumblebees. There's much more factors than that. DuPage County is doing a pretty good job, and in some places with habitat, not mowing, like right next to the building here. It could be advanced, but islands, even if they're large islands, may maintain a few native bees, but they need to be corridors. They need to be able to move. Some of these native bees are so small, they're like gnat size, that they only travel
Mr. Miser, your 3
100
minutes
years.
is expired.
Okay, thank you.
Oscar Villa or Villa.
Keeper. 2013, I started with 2 hives, like a hobby, and now this is my work. I produce honey in Chicago. I have beehives in Chicago in 5-6 locations, and some in houses, some in community gardens, and some in the suburbs. And so I used to work in a hotel, and and for many years, and when I decided I didn't like the work in the hotel, I said I should do something I like. I don't know what I like. I like maybe bees, and so now I quit my job a couple years ago, and now I produce honey. I take my bees observation to farmers markets. I talk about bees. I love bumblebees too. The honeybees is not a problem. It's conservation, development. You know, the bumblebees overwinter underground, and if we put concrete or asphalt, or if we put a flood of pesticides, insecticides, and we're gonna kill everything, not only the bumblebees. Honeybees produce more nature, produce more seeds, more plants, more fruits for us, for the animals, for the environment. Honeybees, if you see the bee movie, you can see it right there, you know, no bees. And all the bees are important, honeybees, native bees, everything, right? And instead of trying to, okay, maybe we ban the honeybees is a problem. Honeybees are 400 years already here. And Illinois used to produce a lot of honey, and now everything's developed. So, and the farmers, God bless them, but they produce corn, soy, GMO, and put up every month pesticides and Roundup, and Roundup is bad for us, but it's bad for the insects, and we think, oh, it's going to be good for us. No, it's good. It's bad for the environment, bad for the insects, it's bad for us too. Anyway, we need to preserve nature, and instead of banning the bees, let's ban the pesticides, or let's ban development. You know, don't put more concrete. Keep the nature. We are nature. If we don't have nature, what's going to happen? We're going to produce food and buildings, and we need air, clean air, nature, right? Okay, thank you.
Okay, if the board has received public comment via our online portal, per board policy, those comments were provided to board members yesterday so they could be reviewed. Comments submitted electronically will be included in the minutes of this meeting. Thanks to all who helped spread the word and those who attended the very successful Veterans Resource Fair here last week. It was a great turnout with lots of information available in one room to assist veterans and their families. We are grateful to all who participated. And as a reminder, that September 7th is our Mental Health Summit. We want to make sure we reserve seats for any board members and members of the public who want to attend. So please register this week on the DuPage County Health Department website. That's dupagecounty.org. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. I seek a motion to approve the consent agenda items. Okay. 24-22-96, DuPage County Board, regular meeting minutes, Tuesday, August 13th, 2024. 24-21-81, 8-9-2024 pay list, 24-22-07, 8-13-2024 pay list, 24-22-21, 8-13-2024 auto debit pay list, 24-22-63, 8-16-2024 pay list, 24-22-64, 8-16-2024 auto debit pay list, 24-22-78, 8-20-24 pay list, 22-21-74, 8-8-2024 Corville wire transfer, 24-21-85, 8-9-2024 IDOR wire transfer, 24-21-83 Recorder's Monthly Revenue Statement, July 2024, 24-22-74 change orders to various contracts as specified in the attached packet. All in favor? Okay, let's move on to Vice Chair Childress and County Board.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I get started, there's a couple of things I want to talk about. Last week, we partnered with an organization, NOBCO, which stands for the National Organization for Black County Officials. We hosted a financial literacy for the youth on Sunday, and we hosted a financial literacy for adults on Monday. The county was well received. It was really a great event. There's some people in this building that made it an outstanding day, and I do want to point that out, and helped us build that relationship with NOBCO. What we covered was we trained the children or the youth on the importance of the stock market and how to build a portfolio. It was also sponsored by Nationwide that donated gift cards as the kids started to build their portfolio and how valuable it was. They received gift cards in that direction. It also talked a lot about having build a portfolio at an early age and why that's important. The adults during that training session learned how to positively build their credit and what impacts that negative rating, which goes along with affordable housing, obtaining just a overall healthy credit score. We had Dr. Ford fly up he's on the Shelby County Board from Shelby County, Tennessee. We had members from New Orleans coming up. We had members from Johnson County, Iowa here. We had the head of Nationwide come in, was here, and I really want to point out some things. One, first of all, Tim Harbaugh's group, the building was flawless. It was executed really great. I mean, the setup was great. There was an event on Saturday, an expungement hearing. That was taken down and by Sunday morning executed perfectly. We also had a book bag giveaway. We got supplies donated from Scarce, so we utilized them, and all of the kids walked away with backpacks. We had probably 50-ish somewhere in there that showed up. They were excited. We also had Keith and security, again, Security was perfect, flawless. The rooms were set up. Everything was great. IT, I want to give them a shout out. Again, they had the whole room set up. We were pretty much had the screens up. Computers were plugged in. Everything was great. And then finally, I do want to point out, well, not finally, but Greg Bedeloff helped us do the marketing. And then finally, I want to point out Nick, who doesn't Nick know? I mean, these people come from all over the country, and Nick knew them and welcomed them in and kind of helped us host it. It was a great day for us. And from everybody walked away with a very, very positive image of what DuPage County has to offer. They do 4 of them a year, one in the West, one in the Midwest. We got the Midwest, one in the South, and then there'll be one more for the year in Washington, D.C. So I was pretty happy to get that here. And again, we got a really, really positive image of how welcoming DuPage County is. Thank you. And with that, my items, the parties resolved the issue that was on the agenda. There's no longer the need for these 2 items and have been accordingly removed from the agenda. And that's about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Childress. Great job on that event. Okay, let's move on to Finance and Member Chaplin.
Morning, Madam Chair. Just a quick update from Finance. In Finance, I spoke about our meeting that we had. Member Zay participated along with Nick and Jeff and Chris Clevenger. With Misro, our insurance broker. It was a very positive meeting, and we're going to have them in here on September 10th to explain everything to the board, but we had some really great news coming out of our, from Misro, so that's going to be a great meeting on September 10th. So with that, I move on FIR 13924, annual financial commitments in support of DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau for the fiscal year 2024, amount of $50,000.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress.
Yes.
Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay. And Cahill.
Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 14224, acceptance and appropriation of the HUD 2023 Continuum of Care Planning Grant in the amount of $312,932, Community Services.
Leave is granted, Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 14324, acceptance and appropriation of the HUD 2023 Continuum of Care Homelessness Management Information System in the amount of $80,000.
Leave is granted, Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 14424, acceptance and appropriation of the HUD Continuum of Care Homelessness Management Information System grant for 2025 in the amount of $188,556, Community Services.
Leave is granted, Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 14524, acceptance and appropriation of additional funding for ILD CEO Community Service Block Grant 2024 in the amount of, we are from $1,196,614 to $1,274,833, an increase of $78,219, Community Services.
Leave is granted, Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 14624, amendment to resolution FIR 22522 for Water Connection Assistant Program.
Leave is granted, Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 014724, approval of employee compensation and job classification adjustments.
Leave is granted, Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 014821, or 24, budget transfers 82724, various companies and accounting units.
Leave is granted, Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 14924, placing names on payroll, facilities management.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Chaplin.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And while we do these things and we call off numbers and letters often and they're not very personal, I'd like to just take a moment to recognize and congratulate Tim Harbaugh for the amazing work he's done here at the county and for a well-deserved promotion. Okay, now to Animal Services and Member Kajewski.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just one brief committee update. This Saturday, August 31st, from 9 to 1, DuPage Animal Friends will be partnering with NBC. NBC for the month of September is doing their Clear the Shelters, so we'll be one of the shelters they've been featuring this Saturday, again, from 9 to 1. If anybody wants to stop out, DuPage County, there'll be food, drinks, while supply lasts for drinks and food, but of course, and there's a raffle, lots of terrific animals that'll be out there. You can get an early sneak preview by clicking online there, and you can see some of the cats, dogs, and other animals that we have up for adoption. So, Tim, if you want to look at adopting, go take a peek there. But the facility will be in great shape under Tim's direction. But again, that's this Saturday. And the special adoption fee is $10. So all the way that day through September 10th, the county will have a $10 adoption fee. But NBC has been promoting it. We have participated in the past in that event, and it's been very successful. So if anybody else wants to stop by or go online, you can see the animals that are available currently for adoption. I have one item. If I could get a motion on I'll make a motion on ASP 0001-24, which is a recommendation for the approval of a contract to Code of Ross, North America, for our medical supplies not to exceed $90,000.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Krajewski.
Aye.
LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress.
Yes.
Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Garcia. And Guston.
Okay, thank you, Member Kajewski. Member Rutledge, you wanted to speak?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I just wanted to say that I stopped over at Animal Services the other day to drop off some supplies, and I got a little bit of a tour of the new facility. It looks amazing. But the one thing I wanted to comment on this morning is on the south side of the building where the main entrance will be. I want to commend the people that selected the planting there, because it's all native plantings along that route. And in light of the conversations that we're having, we are doing a good job to expand our native plantings here. So thank you for all of those that worked on that.
Okay, and on to development and Member Tornatori.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I did want to thank all those who have educated me about bees and beekeeping over the last month or so, and thank Member Rutledge for helping to put together the joint special call between environmental and development last week. To those who have called me, some of whom I did not return phone calls of, specifically because I didn't think it was appropriate to have ex parte, if you will, conversations with people. So I did listen to your voicemails, and I have taken all that you have said under advisement. With that, I will move approval of DCO 50-24 T-1-24, text amendment B to the DuPage County zoning ordinance to approve a zoning petition T-1-24B, a proposed text amendment to the zoning ordinance relative to beekeeping.
Okay.
This was a 7-0 vote at ZBA and a 4-1 vote at development.
Okay, Member Evans and then Member Rutledge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to express thank you for everybody who is here, who came to give testimony. We've heard a lot of discussion, and we have all learned so much about bees. I think we're all better people for it, maybe. And then I just wanted to say I'm not going to support this, and not because I have anything against beekeepers. I think beekeeping is a wonderful thing to have, but no one's here to demonize honeybees or beekeepers. But we do have an endangered species called the rusty patch bumblebee, and we have it here in DuPage County, and we want to protect it. We do have protections under the stormwater ordinance that we as a county created. So one thing that was the most compelling for me was that Paul Haas
I asked him just a hypothetical. I said, if there is a developer that comes in with a stormwater permit and they reach out to the IDNR to have reporting for endangered species. If it is identified that there is an endangered species on their property, namely the rusty patch bumblebee, will we have any kind of regulations that preclude honeybee keeping on that property? And he said, no, that will be allowed. And I have a problem with that. I struggle with that. I think it's still allowed on 1 acre size properties, but given the concentration of the smaller residential lots, that's basically my hesitation for it. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, there's one thing that I did want to mention. Everybody talks about the pesticides. I think we do need to reduce pesticides in the environment. And, we're bemoaning the loss of habitat. And I just want everyone to take this opportunity to look at their yards and plant more habitat for these bees. Thanks.
Member Rutledge.
Thank you, Chair Conroy. Actually, Paul, I have a couple questions about this, and I've lived and breathed and slept beekeeping for the last couple of weeks, so I have quite a few comments to make on this issue. But yeah, Paul, come on up. First of all, this ordinance requires a 4-H certificate. What exactly does that mean?
4-H has several activities relative to agricultural activities on properties. One of them is keeping of bees. So currently, under the county zoning code, if you have a piece of property that's 40,000 square feet or greater, we require that if you want to have any type of agricultural activity on the property, including beekeeping, you have to go down to your local 4-H organization and enroll as an activity and bring that documentation back to the county. And essentially, the 4-H program makes sure that you are engaged in some sort of educational program on an annual basis with the 4-H program. So that would hold true for anybody over 40,000, and if this ordinance were to pass, it would hold true for anybody less than 40,000 square feet.
So really, this precludes any hobbyists from establishing beehives. It has to be in conjunction with the 4-H, correct?
Not only 4-H, but you also would have to get registered with the Department of Agriculture for your apiaries.
And then currently, I think we have 15 municipalities that allow beekeeping. Do they have those same restrictions?
They have similar restrictions, yeah. The one restriction that regulation that they absolutely have is that you have to get your apiaries registered with the State Department of Agriculture. Some of them do require 4-H, most of them do not, similar to what the county's proposing.
Okay.
Member Rutledge, they need you to speak into the microphone.
Sure, okay. Any estimate how many beehives we currently have in our unincorporated areas?
So from a legal standpoint, 4-H advises that there are 12 activities in 2024 that have registered to have beekeeping on their properties in all of DuPage County. We've identified that 2 of those 4-H projects are on properties in DuPage County that are over 40,000 square feet in size. In addition, in unincorporated DuPage County, we have 5 properties that enjoy what's called an agricultural exemption from having to meet local building, zoning, and stormwater regulations. Those are essentially your farmettes. Under the state law, if you have 5 acres of land and you are engaged in an agricultural pursuit, raising of livestock or growing of crops, then you essentially have a mini farm, for lack of a better term. And we have 5 instances where people, in addition to having sheep and goats and pigs and cows and horses, they also have beekeeping operations. So for the unincorporated area, we are aware of 7 legal beekeeping operations that have 4-H certificates or on agricultural properties that have registered with the Department of Agriculture. According to the Department of Agriculture's annual assessment that they're required to make for people who register their beekeeping hives and apiaries in all of the state of Illinois, the Department of Ag shows that there are approximately 300 beehives in all of DuPage County. That's not dispositive of what I just said about what are legal and not, but those are beekeeping organizations that you've heard here today that actually are aware that they have to register their apiaries with the Department of Agriculture. So there's 300 identified, and those are beehives. So there could be multiple beehives on individual properties.
All right, thanks, Paul. And then my last question is, if we were to pass this today, can we amend down the road, or as Member Evans talked about, stormwater, and if there was determined there was a rusty patch bee on a property, can we amend this ordinance? Can we put any time limits on it? Or once it passes today, our hands are off?
So a couple of things. Right now, the ordinance that's before you is a proposed text amendment. Any changes that the board would want to consider that might mitigate some of these concerns, we can talk with the state's attorney's office, but I submit that they would probably advise that we'd want to take that back to public hearing because we didn't publish or have any evidence or testimony submitted at public hearing as to some of these additional mitigating factors. If you were to pass it today as is, and there was an issue that came up at a later date, we can always come back and go through the same process and amend the ordinance.
Okay, thanks, Paul. So thank you for answering all of my questions. Again, I did a deep dive into a lot of this. I talked to the Forest Preserve. So a lot of people are talking about loss of habitat. And I'm going to suggest that, well, first of all, since I first got elected on the board in 2018 and 2019, I have long railed against the amount of turf grass that we have in our county and the amount of money that we spend on that and how that does nothing for pollinators. So I'll continue to advocate for that. I think that our county has been doing a good job. I talked to the Forest Preserve. They said they have restored 8,500 acres of prairie since 2006 and about 1,500 acres just in the last couple of years. If you drive along Mack Road or Herrick Road, they took all the invasive trees out of there and replanted prairies, and it is just the most beautiful site full of pollinators, I'm sure. The other thing I looked into was the House Resolution 4277, Saving America's Pollinator Act of 2023. So this is definitely fresh information. And they don't really talk much about habitat, but they talk very much about neonicotinoids and the problem with pesticide-coated seeds in our agriculture, things like that. But some of the things that are part of this bill says that the incidence of colony collapse disorder and other forms of excess bee mortality have been at a record high, with beekeepers repeatedly losing 100% of their operations. National surveys report an 11-year average loss of 39% of honeybee colonies, with a 2021 season representing the highest hive loss on record of over 50%. And the national honey crop is down over 29% since 2014, and 2021 was the first time in 35 years that honey yield rates dipped below 50 pounds per hive. Considering the rusty patch bumblebee, it is listed within this past decade due in part to threats from pesticides. So they've linked the use of certain class of systemic insecticides to the rapid decline of pollinators and the deterioration of pollinator health. Pesticides cause sublethal effects, including impairing foraging and feeding behavior, disorientation, weakened immunity, delayed larval development, yada, yada, yada. It even got down to, I've had people tell me that it even goes to dryer vent exhaust that confuses the pollinators, makes it hard for them to find where they need to forage. State pesticide regulators have urged the EPA to address the ubiquitous and unregulated use of neonicotinoids, and so on and so on. But there's really nothing in this bill that talks about habitat. So I do believe that, again, in our county, we're doing a good job of increasing habitat. Just this morning, I spoke with Tim Harbaugh and Joy Hins. We are going to look at increasing our native planting out in the front and also look into native seed sales so that we can actually provide people with the seeds that they can use on their property to increase habitat in the county. And regardless of how this vote goes today, I will commit to expanding habitat in our county. So those are my comments for today. Thank you.
Okay, Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm going to be supporting this. Again, I want to thank all the residents for coming out and all the information that we got. But again, as the chaplain pointed out, there's 900,000 people in this county. We're a very large county, and I had those same questions that Paul Hoss just answered. We have 7 of these, we're not talking about thousands of beehives. We have 7 properties in unincorporated, 5 that are, I guess, currently under 20 or 40,000 square feet that are not legal. So again, we're talking about, even if we pass this ordinance, we're not talking about a ton of bumblebees. And I heard one gentleman talk about he was born at Hinsdale Hospital. So was I. I lived in Downers Grove all my life. In '72, I lived over by Downers Grove South, and I had hundreds, literally, of pheasants walking all over there. I used to walk to school, high school, and they would jump up. They're all gone now, but it's due to loss of habitat. That's the biggest reason we're seeing a number of the animals that were native to DuPage, not here anymore. We had a presentation at our animal services a few months ago. They were talking about rehabbing baby raccoons, but there's 11, I think there was 11 animals they said that are on the endangered species list that, 11 animals that Willowbrook Wildlife is currently rehabbing that are predators to endangered species in DuPage County. So they're still helping those out. There's a lot of reason, most of it's lack of habitat. I know I heard one gentleman talk about rumors about the Sierra Club. I'm not sure, I think I heard those same rumors, but I think it was 2002 or 3. We were passing ordinance here at the Animal Services Committee to ban circus animals, and it was Animal Expo, I believe it was, and that gentleman was in front of us, and they had all kinds of animals over there, but we were not going to allow those in the fairgrounds. And he threatened myself and our board members. I got 8,000 people on, my mailing list, and if you don't support this, we're going to be voting, against you. I'm like, fine, this is the right thing to do, and all those people got reelected. So again, this doesn't seem like, there's a whole lot of reasons why. We learned a lot about bees, but loss of habitat's the biggest issue, I think, in DuPage County, and why we're not seeing some of this anymore, and we're talking about 7, 8, 9. It seems to me, zoning board approved it. I'm going to be supporting this thing.
Member Guston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do want to thank everyone who came to speak today. We had 9 speakers who were positive with the changes in the ordinance. 1 was not, and I respect all of them and all of their comments and all they had to say. I will say this is also more of a zoning thing, too. It seems to me unfair for our unincorporated individuals to have the burden of having to have an acre of land so that they can be a beekeeper. The other municipalities and villages, a lot of them have a lower number, either a half acre or a quarter of an acre, to be able to allow individuals to be beekeepers. I will say my background is in real estate. And 1 acre of land in DuPage County is extremely expensive. And I will tell you, people that are going to buy an acre of land are not going to put beehives on it and habitat. They're going to put a mansion on it. So the reality of actually helping habitat and helping the bee population really hasn't worked in a long time. And unless we change our ordinance, allowing people with smaller lots, as staff has recommended, an acre lot, and also staff has recommended now checks and balances on that. I think that is the right way in which to go. We don't have a lot of active beekeepers here in the county, as staff has mentioned, but we have almost 1 million people, and we have such a small population of people that are beekeeping in our county. So by reducing the lot size required for beekeeping, I think will help all of the bee population. In addition, we do have people that have allergies and such, and they do like to have their own honey because they know where it's coming from. We do get honey from other countries that have different, different things in it that are not natural. So it is important to have this additional food source for those families that want honey as part of their diet, which I do, but I don't have a hive or honeybees. The biggest thing, and I agree with Chairwoman Rutledge, we're not looking at pesticides. And so, these are conversations I think the committee should take up to see exactly how, where, and what, right, we can affect that change. The other is habitats within county land or villages that might consider working together, or cities that might work together. We work together on mowing lawns. We should be able to work together on native plantings. We do know that certain bees only go so many miles and other bees might go more miles. So I think it's a very good conversation that we're having. And I do support the ordinance change also for the reasons I've mentioned. Thank you.
Okay, Member Yu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, as we've heard, there are many, many people passionate about the issue of bees and beekeeping. I watched the special call meeting, and I was hoping to hear from more scientific experts with regard to each of the different arguments. And I really think it comes down to two premises. The first being that native bees are allegedly going extinct. And I don't think there's been any evidence to show that honeybees are going extinct, but there's been quite enough evidence and testimony and comments that this is happening to our native bees, particularly certain types, which Member Evans had mentioned. And, you know, I needed to know more. So I did a little bit of research. I'm reading through Scientific American Journal. I'm reading through scientific reports. I'm reading through Journal of the Society for Conservation Biology. And it all comes down to that, yes, there is this connection that beekeeping is really for people. It's not necessarily a conservation practice, and it's not helping native bees, which are at risk of extinction. And one study in particular calculated that over a period of 3 months, a single hive collects as much pollen that could support the development of 100,000 native solitary bees. And in other words, this study said that 40 hive apiaries residing in wildlands for 3 months collects the pollen equivalent of 4 million wild bees. So if I see that, I think, wow, that's a lot of native bees that are affected by these apiaries, by these hives, which is a big concern. And I understand that this came as a development issue, but when you start researching and people come in and talk about different things, there's this unforeseen consequence, and maybe there is a true unforeseen consequence to native bees. So that's the first premise. The second premise is that many people have talked about repeatedly about the loss of habitat and with regard to pesticides. And I absolutely agree that those are really important issues that need to be addressed. So as such, the ordinance, the text amendment as it stands today, I cannot support, because if we truly believe that loss of habitat is an issue, then we need to bring that forward. We need to put that as part of the ordinance. If we're going to say that bees are like livestock, then we should be feeding or providing habitat for those bees, and the owners don't have to do that right now, right? That's not a requirement. If you have goats or chickens, you have to feed those animals, but that's not required for honeybees. So again, with those two premises, those two arguments in mind, I'm planning on voting no on this ordinance amendment. Thank you.
Member Childress.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to piggyback on Member Yu. I didn't do as much research as what she did, but I did do some, and I was going through the University of Illinois horticulture. She's an educator, and a couple of things that she pointed out was that the bumblebee is headed towards extinction, and 87% of the bee has disappeared within 25 states. So it appears that that particular species is headed toward extinction, and because of that, I just don't have the comfort level that I would be part of the extinction of any particular species of anything. We should be preserving that, and at that point I'll be voting no, but I still respect everybody that are beekeepers and what they've talked about today. I've learned a lot and continue to learn a lot, and will continue to do research in this area. But right now I'm just not comfortable because of the fact that we may send this bee into extinction. Thank you.
Okay, Member Garcia and then Member Chaplin.
Thank you, Chair Conroy. I'm going to repeat a little bit about what the last two members said. What I'm hearing here from our public comment, and I'm so grateful for everyone coming out here. I am a huge gardener. I have a huge garden. I am a chair of a vegetable garden for a township. The bees are so important. So we do plant the native habitat so that these bees do pollinate the plants that we need. My concern is that I think we're putting the bees before the habitat and the pesticide rules and regulations, which I think we should be concentrating on. It's going to take a long time for people to change their behaviors and to change so that we can get that change in our county where people are planting more natives and are stopping using the pesticides. I personally use an organic fertilizer company, and it's been fantastic. And I think we all need to change to something like that and start changing our mindset. I'm very concerned that because let's be clear, this is not disallowing people from having bees on their property. You just have to have a certain amount of acreage. So beekeeping is allowed in DuPage County in unincorporated areas. You just have to have a large enough acreage. And I do want to see some kind of verbiage that states that if we're going to change the amount of acreage allowed, that there has to be some kind of habitat provided. And I know that that's going to be hard to do, but it's going to take some discussion. So I don't think we're quite ready for this ordinance to change at this point in time, so I will be voting no.
Okay, Member Chaplin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I do want to thank everyone for coming out today and speaking. I was the only no vote in Development Committee. And when I went into Development Committee, I was ready to vote yes on the ordinance because I thought it was a really great idea. Then I heard some people speak, and that gave me pause. And then I was not confident enough to make that yes vote in Development. We had the special call meeting, which was informative, but to Member Yu's point, we didn't really have any scientific experts here, right? So I think that we need a little bit more information on this issue before we change the ordinance. I would feel much more comfortable if I had a little more information because I too was reading about the bees, and I just don't have the confidence right now to vote yes on this. So that was, I just want to explain that. So
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Member Rutledge.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple things. Remember you talked about, honeybees and that, we don't really need to be protected, but according to the United States government, the honey crops down 29%, and for the first time in 35 years, honey yields dipped below 50 pounds per hive. That there's an 11-year average loss of 39% of honeybee colonies. So we do need to protect the honeybees as well, I believe. And the other comment I wanted to make too, well, a couple of them, Member Childers talked about, sending bumblebees to extinction. Being endangered and being extinct are two different things. And I don't believe that, according to Paul, if we can change this as we go down the road, when we know that, things may be harming endangered species, I don't think that automatically means they're going to be extinct anytime soon. I love the idea of native plantings. I'm absolutely in support of that, but I did have one gentleman in my district who had like this giant drainage hole in his front yard with a big retaining wall. He tried to rebuild that. He got ticketed for not having a permit. $20,000 later, because he had to hire consultants to observe the native plantings that he put in, it took a year for them to confirm that those native plantings had actually taken hold and that they could sign off on that permit. So I don't think anybody is going to want to take on honeybees to have a consultant come into their yard. I love the idea of native plantings, don't get me wrong, but I think that that is a barrier that's going to keep a lot of people from doing hives. The last thing I want to say is Connie Schmidt with the Sierra Club has been an amazing advocate for this. It's been a very difficult thing for me to consider, especially being the environmental chair. But Sierra Club's own website does talk about the honeybees are essential to the production of 75% of the 115 major global crops. They didn't really talk about habitat or insecticides. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay. Would you like to close, Member Toney?
I'd have a couple things I'd like to say.
Okay,
if I
please do.
could. I've got to acknowledge that when this first came forward, I was somewhat ambivalent to the issue. I thought that the biggest objection would be neighbors being concerned about being stung by someone who had a beehive. Little did I know we were going to get into what we have. Just for the record, there has been one person who has come to any of these meetings who has objected to the ordinance. That person has represented the Sierra Club, while there have been any number of people who have come individually and representing other organizations who have come in support of this. As to extinction, I think that there are very few beehives in unincorporated DuPage County, and if the native bee, bumblebee, is going extinct, I don't think it's because of the handful of hives that we have. It's because of the habitat and other things that are being said. And to that end, any new hives under this ordinance will have to be regulated, will have to be under 4-H certification. And we have people with beehives already in DuPage County doing it illegally. So the reality is that if we have an ordinance which allows them to do it legally, I think there'll be even more control than we have right now. And the reality also is I don't think we're going to get a run on beehives if we pass this ordinance. People aren't going to do this because they can. They're going to do it because they've had this passion to do it, whether or not it's been legal or not. For me, the overwhelming reason to vote to support this was a question that I asked of Paul Haas and the other experts, is that how long have the native bees been on this earth? And the answer was forever. How long have the honeybees been on this earth? And the answer is forever. And they apparently have been able to get along forever. Why it's suddenly become an issue in unincorporated DuPage County in 2024 is beyond my comprehension. I don't understand why it's a problem now when it hasn't been a problem forever. So for that reason, as well as all of the others, I'm going to be in support of this. So those are my comments, Madam Chair.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I made the motion.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, roll call, please.
Tornatore.
Aye.
You. Zay. Cahill. Chaplin.
No.
Childress.
No.
Covert. Desart.
No.
Eckhoff. Evans.
No.
Galassi. Garcia.
No.
Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. And Schwarzy. 10 voting aye, 8 voting nay.
Okay, the motion passes. And I would also like to recognize Member Rutledge for the amount of work that you have done on this issue. This is a very important issue. I also want to say that Sierra Club has been and continues to be a point person for the environment. But what I will tell you, watch out for the pesticide lobby. Because if you think they're tough, try to eliminate pesticides and see what happens then. And just for the record, because it took courage for Member Rutledge to do what she did, I also would have voted yes. Okay, Member Toney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move approval of DCO 54-24, zoning 2423, an ordinance for a variation to allow a boat trailer in front of the front wall and a variation to reduce the front yard setback from 30 feet to approximately 5 feet to park a boat on a trailer. This was denied by the zoning hearing officer and failed at development. If you wish to allow this, it will require a 3/4 majority, or 14 votes.
Okay, we'll need a roll call, please.
Tornatori.
No.
You.
No.
Zay. Cahill. No. Chaplin.
No.
Childress. No. Covert. Desart. No. Eckhoff. Evans.
No.
Galassi. No. Garcia. No. Guston. No. Krajewski. No. LaPlante. No. Ozog. No. Rutledge. No. And Schwarzy. 0 voting aye, 18 voting nay.
And the motion fails. Member Tonatore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move approval of DCO 52-24, zoning 2435, to approve a variation to increase the total size of a new single-family home from 2,547 square feet to 2,741 square feet.
Okay, roll call, please.
Tornatori.
Aye.
You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. And Schwarzy.
Okay, Member Tonatore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move approval of DCO 53-24, zoning 2440, a variation to reduce the west interior side setback from 20 feet to 13 feet for a home addition, and a variation to reduce the east side setback from 20 feet to 10 feet for a house addition.
Okay. Okay. Leave is granted. Member Tonatore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move approval of DCO 54-24, zoning 2450, variation to allow a 4H project for a property less than 40,000 square feet to have a miniature horse and donkey on the property.
Okay. Leave is granted. Member Tonatore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move approval of DCO 55-24, zoning 2456, a conditional use to allow a shed to remain less than 3 feet from the interior side property line.
Leave is granted. Member Tonatore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I move to waive first reading for item 12G, DCO 56-24.
Second.
Text amendment to the DuPage County zoning ordinance relative to charging stations and accessory units.
All in favor? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this point, I move to approve DCO 56-24 T-2-24.
Second.
Text amendment. I ask, if I may ask a question of the state's attorney, if we can take the two things and bifurcate them, because I think there's going to be issues, one on the charging stations and one on the ADUs. Okay.
Okay. All in favor? Okay. Member Tonatore.
I move approval of zoning petition T-2-24, a text amendment to the DuPage County zoning ordinance relative to electric vehicles to add to the permitted and conditional use sections to allow for electric vehicle charging stations in all non-residential zoning districts.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Tornatori.
Aye.
You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress.
Yes.
Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. And Schwarzy.
Okay. Member Tonatore.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I move approval of DCO 56-24, T-2-24, text amendment to add new residential use requirements and bulk regulations for accessory dwelling units, i.e. the number of occupants in the accessory dwelling units, number of kitchens, setback requirements of accessory dwelling units, and parking requirements.
Member Zay has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. You know, I understand what we're trying to do here, but I can tell you I appreciate the Westwind Homeowners Association, obviously in my district. They do a great job looking out for the unincorporated area. And I think this was good intentions, but unfortunately, we're gonna have people that are gonna be bad actors on this. We're not gonna be able to regulate this the right way. Again, we're basically going against, I think, things we voted against in the past, where we're now putting accessory structures on unincorporated areas. I think there's a lot better way to get housing out there, and I can't support this at this time.
Okay, Member Schwarzy.
Well, I guess I was going to ask for maybe a little more detail on what this text amendment allows with regards to these accessory dwelling units. Can someone answer that for me?
I'd be happy to try, but I'd rather Paul do it.
Yeah.
Well,
Currently, the county does allow for accessory dwelling units on single-family properties where, after approval by the county board of a conditional use, the property owner has shown that the accessory dwelling unit is exclusively for someone who is a family member, someone who is over the age of 62, and where that accessory dwelling unit is occurring inside an existing single-family home. The proposal would be to allow, by conditional use, anyone to have an accessory dwelling unit in their home or in an existing detached accessory building. An existing detached accessory building would assume that if this were approved, the existing detached accessory building would have existed at the time of approval, which means you can't build a new detached accessory building in order to accommodate an ADU. So it would allow it for inside an existing home or an existing detached accessory building. There would be no limitation on age, and there'd be no limitation on whether or not the person was a family member or not. To mitigate some of the concerns that we anticipated and that were discussed at the public hearing is that right now, the county's definition of family, currently the county's definition of family in zoning code is people who are related by blood, marriage, or adoption. There's no limitation on the number of people that can live in a home. It also includes, under the definition of family, people who are unrelated by blood or marriage. You can have up to 5 people living in a dwelling unit. So this proposed ordinance would cap the number of total people living on the property, should you choose to have an accessory dwelling unit as part of your principal dwelling unit. It would cap it at 5. So you couldn't have any more than 5 people living on the entire property in the main home and in the accessory dwelling unit. And that's similar to what we have currently on the books for people living unrelated by blood or marriage on a property. And once again, all of this would be done after vetting through the conditional use procedure at public hearing before the Zoning Board of Appeals. Their findings and recommendations would come to Development Committee. Development Committee would review it, send a recommendation and finding to the full county board. Full county board would have final disposition on the matter.
So none of this allows for building new structures. It's about, additions? Does it allow for additions?
So as part of a single-family home, you could build a new structure. You could build a brand-new single-family home, and in that single-family home, you could have the primary dwelling and this accessory dwelling unit. You could also add on to your existing single-family home. What it would not allow is it wouldn't allow for a new detached building or any additions to a detached building. It would only be for a principal building where you could build a new one or add on to the existing home.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Member Garcia.
Paul, real quick, clarification on this. So the principal owner of the main structure has to live there, correct?
The owner of the property has to live on the property, either in the home or in the accessory dwelling unit. So the owner of the property has to live on the property.
And then the second question I had was, in the accessory dwelling unit, can it be rented out like for a vacation rental or something like that? Is that allowed, or is that something that the county does not allow?
So the county doesn't allow for VRBOs or Airbnbs. We don't allow that now. This would not allow for that either. One of the provisions in this code is a typical real estate leasing contract, which is you have to have at least a long-term relationship with the renter, and that's at least 30 days or greater, and that's proposed in this ordinance as well. And it could not be rented as a short-term rental.
Okay, Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Paul, I just have a question. So if there's, say, a barn that somebody wants to turn into an accessory dwelling unit, do they have to bring it up to code so that it's habitable? Like, do they have to have fire rating, in between the walls? And so it has to be basically up to the same code as like a regular house, correct?
So the answer is yes. What we are keeping in place is all of the other codes and ordinances that would apply to a single-family home would remain in place. As an example, you're allowed to have not more than 6 passenger vehicles on the property. Having an accessory dwelling unit would not increase the number of vehicles that you could have on your property. You're still limited to 6. That's just an example. There are several other codes. In addition, you have to get building permits for all of these activities, including meeting all of the current building, stormwater, drainage, fire codes.
Great, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Member Eckhoff.
I'm just trying to figure out where did the demand for this come from? Because I remember previously that we would have people come in and they had a senior in their family, maybe a mother-in-law, father-in-law, and they would come in and they had special needs, and we would allow them to use something like this for a certain period of time, but it wasn't supposed to be forever because we didn't want to have opening up a whole new set of households in the existing neighborhood. So where are we getting this demand from?
So as part of our Housing Solutions, Ad Hoc Housing Solutions Committee, we've identified the need, or some of the causes that are creating the lack of housing opportunities, whether owner or rental in DuPage County, and we've identified that throughout the Chicagoland area. One of the solutions that we found to putting more units back into the system, whether they be ownership or rental units, is by having accessory dwelling units, having people be able to convert portions of their homes or portions of their detached buildings into rental units. And that's where it came from, out of our discussions with the Ad Hoc Housing Solutions Committee.
But doesn't that qualify as changing maybe what's a 3-bedroom house into a 4-bedroom house?
Well,
and then they qualify as bringing in a unrelated person as part of the limit that we have of 5 unrelated people in the house.
Well, going from 3 bedrooms to 4 bedrooms, happens all the time. I think really the issue is taking a portion of the house and turning it into another free standalone separate dwelling unit. We have situations right now where people are renting out their houses to people legally that are unrelated by blood or marriage, where you have up to 5 people in theory that could live together holistically in that house. They share all the common areas. They share the kitchen, the dining room, the family room, but they have their own separate bedroom. What this would allow is for that person to be able to have their own sort of side suite where they could have everything contained in one area in the house. The bedroom, the living room, the family room, and most importantly, the kitchen. They would not have to share common areas with the other dwellers in the house, and that would really be the difference. One of the ways that we think we've mitigated against that is to keep all the other regulations in place. You can't have any more vehicles on the property. You would have to meet all the building, stormwater, drainage, health codes, and also the fire codes. For instance, if you're on a septic system, if you are adding another bedroom for your family, you may necessarily have to increase the size of your septic tank and also your septic field. Same would apply here. The only difference really is that we would be adding the ability to have a separate standalone dwelling unit, which usually includes a kitchen, in the attached dwelling unit, the single-family home, or in a detached building.
But I mean, the whole thing with an R1, R2, R3, R4 district is density, number of people, and all of a sudden now we're creating a whole situation that apparently can go on forever, where the density is going to be allowed to be increased, which I would. No, well, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Can't exceed 5 people.
Can't exceed 5 people, but usually in a 3-bedroom. I mean, you're allowing a whole separate house to come in, which might encourage more people.
Well, one of the
things. The whole idea is to get more people into this house, right?
Well, it's not to get more people into the house. It's to allow for more opportunities for people to be able to rent in areas where they work in DuPage County. Right now, we've learned through our ad hoc housing solution that there's a lack of units, both market and affordable, both ownership and rental. And this is a way to increase the number of units in the system. One of the ways we feel, once again, that we've mitigated against that concern is that we are capping the number of people that can live on the entire property to 5. One of the things that we have found is that we have people in our ad hoc housing solutions, that we have people who have a piece of property, they may have raised their family there, and their family has moved up, grown up, and gone out to buy their own houses someplace else. So in many instances, you have a family that just consists of 2 people, and they have a large house, and sometimes they can't take care of that house anymore. They can't, they're struggling to pay some of the utilities, some of the taxes. This gives those people the opportunity to rent some of their space to be able to get some income to take care of some of the costs that they have to, for taxes and utilities. And it also opens up a rental unit for someone who's looking to rent in DuPage County where they work.
So, not to belabor the point, but I mean, that sort of lets everybody in the zoning district possibly open up an apartment in their house, which is going to increase the number of people in that area. Even if it's not above 5 people, it still makes the property, that area, more dense. Right?
Understood. And we also think it's mitigated by the fact that this has to be a conditional use as well. So those issues will be vetted by the Zoning Board of Appeals and ultimately the County Board. The concerns that you have, someone will have to come through the process and ask for zoning relief, and we would, by law, have to notify property owners within 300 feet, so the neighborhood would have an opportunity to weigh in. Communities within 1.5 miles by law have to be noticed up, so local municipalities get to weigh in. These are not as of right. These would all be done by conditional use. So you'd still have the opportunity to look at these on a case-by-case basis. And some of those concerns that you have for a particular piece of property can be developed. There are conditions that could be placed on the use. So for instance, you could place time limitations on a particular ADU. You could place other additional conditions on the ADU that you feel might mitigate that ADU in
Is there
that
a limit
particular
on
instance.
the number of ADUs in a certain geographic area?
We don't have that provision in here, but for instance, if there was one ADU within a certain proximity of another, and they felt that the density would be too great in that particular area, too concentrated, that could be a rationale for denying the conditional use.
I don't see how it can be if it's not part of the existing or what's proposed to be passed. But
Well, as I said, it would be, it's a conditional use, so that is an issue that could be raised during the public
do we have
hearing
somebody on
proceedings.
staff who's going around the county and checking on all these other ones that we passed 10 years ago to see that they're only being used for that, by that one person for that one period of time?
We have a requirement that as part of those conditional uses, those are all conditional uses, and we have a requirement that they annually certify that they are continuing to use that conditional use pursuant to the ordinance that was granted by the county board. And in a couple of instances, we've actually had to take some of those conditional use ADUs for the family member seniors to court because they weren't using them according to the original zoning relief, and we were able to.
So how did we find that out? Somebody went and checked on it?
Yeah, well, they didn't, in a couple of instances, they didn't recertify. So we went out, did an inspection, asked them to recertify, and that's when we found out that they
But
weren't.
if they recertify, we don't have anybody else who goes out.
If they recertify, we get a complaint, like any code enforcement process, we would go out and inspect it, and we found that even if
Not
they.
anybody who proactively goes out every year and checks.
No, because we get that certification. The only time that we would actually go out is if we got a complaint, and we have done that on occasion, that while they may have been recertified for that year, there was still a concern that the people were using it in violation of the ordinance, and we would go on an inspection, and if we found that they weren't, we'd file an action against them.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, oh boy, Member Chaplin. Not going, oh, there it is, thank you, Madam Chair. So, as we're talking about this item here in the AUDs, and we're talking about, before we never allowed this. For my 12 years on the board, I've seen this board change their mind, change policy. Before we didn't allow gaming, now we allow gaming. Before we didn't allow recreational cannabis, now we're allowing recreational cannabis. We are growing as a board. We are addressing a need in the community. This was very important, I think, for our ad hoc Housing Solutions Committee to get this text amendment done. The goal is to provide more housing to people. Now,
maybe 12 years ago when I first got on the board, it wasn't as important of an issue as it is today, you know? So my point is that we're evolving and we're growing and we're changing. We didn't allow bees before, and now we're allowing bees. So we're evolving and changing, and and we allow chickens, right? So I've really seen this board change over the years. I think this is a positive change in the right direction, and I will be definitely supporting it.
Okay, and I kind of want to reiterate what Member Chaplin just said. This came out of the ad hoc housing committee, and not only does it address what Member Chaplin said, but it also will allow some of our seniors to be able to afford to stay in their homes. So something that is incredibly important, I think, in our communities, particularly with the cost of property taxes in DuPage. So I have Covert, Desart, and Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a couple of questions for Paul. A few questions. With this new text amendment, would this allow the property owners to commercialize their property in the sense where they're setting up Airbnbs as well? Or is it just for family and renting out to non-family members? Is it limited to that?
There we go. So this, using the term commercialize is sort of a term of art, I guess. This would allow someone to rent a portion of their house or rent a detached accessory building for money. So they would be able to make money off of it. They cannot use it for Airbnb or any short-term rentals. There's a provision in here that, as I said before, is similar to a standard leasing clause, that you have to at least lease for a period of 30 days or greater, so no short-term rentals. Hope that answers the question.
And then just one more question. Will the property taxes increase for the homeowners that are renting out to non-family members?
So we have talked to a few of the assessors, and that would be up to the assessors to increase the, if they feel that there was a benefit that increased the value of the property, then it's likely that the property taxes could increase. We would hope that, given the fact that this is an attempt to increase more units, that it wouldn't be a burden financially on the property owners, so they wouldn't, if they are going to increase the value of the property, we hope it doesn't increase that much, but that would be up to the township assessors.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Member Desart.
All right, I'll just be real honest with you. This is my fantasy, that one of my children has an accessible, for me. But my question, Paul, is this. This is not a blanket approval, right? Even if this, if we approve this, that's one thing, but then each property who wants an accessible dwelling will still have to come back to zoning to make sure it's appropriate. That's what I thought I heard. Is that true?
Not only will they have to meet, this would allow someone to be able to take advantage of coming through a process, a deliberative process that would start with the Zoning Board of Appeals at public hearing and ultimately make its way to Development Committee and this county board to decide whether or not a property owner has proved his case to be able to have the ability to have an accessory dwelling unit. There are certain provisions that they would still have to meet, but this would allow them to come forward and have the county board approve each one or deny one each individually based on their own merits.
Great, thank you so much for clarifying that.
Member Ozog.
I'm the oldest of 7 children, and here's my scenario. Somebody wants to build, they have an existing, let's call it a barn-type structure, and they want to build a structure that would hold 7 or 8 people. Is that possible? If it's for their family, could they do that? Where, I'm just, in terms of density, bringing on a large, I suppose you'd have to get approval for a 4-bedroom structure. I'm just trying to, worst-case scenario, because that would be kind of an impact when you start to get to schools, et cetera.
Sure. So to be clear, right now, under the definition of family, it's people who are related by blood, marriage, or adoption, or not more than 5 people who are unrelated by blood or marriage. Okay. So if you had a situation where you wanted to bring your entire family who are related by blood, marriage, or adoption onto your house, there would be no limits in terms of the number of people that could live live on that property. There might be some practical limitations in terms of your septic system not being large enough, your bedroom sizes not being large enough, but
Yeah,
from a zoning
so they'd have to
standpoint.
fit those particular criteria, so.
Exactly, all right.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, is that clarified?
Okay, and Member Guston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quick question. So this is not by right. It's basically an option to come to the county and ask for the opportunity or the option to have an not connected building become an ancillary dwelling. Is that correct?
Correct, but it'd be both, either in the house, in the primary structure of the house, or in an existing detached
So either
accessory building.
or.
Right.
Okay. So, but it's not by right, and it would be something that would have to come to the county. I know in the city of Aurora, they had some issues on determining family, and so they had to deal with a lot of things with respect to that. So I'm just sharing that because I know it's kind of like opening up a can of worms, and then how do you enforce it, all of that kind of stuff. So, and I'm pro-housing, don't get me wrong, but it's just, we also have to worry about our neighbors and stuff too. I did speak to our fire department contacts, and our fire people they go across jurisdiction, as you know. They are totally against this. There is so much risk involved in this, particularly if it's a dwelling unit that's not attached. Let's say it's over a garage or whatever. So I just wanted to put that out there so you had that information. And the Airbnb thing, thank you for clarifying that, because we have in the past in my district had issues with Airbnb. So thank you for doing the 30-day minimum on the rental end of it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Member Schwarzy.
Please forgive me if this has been already answered, but I just want to confirm. So we are not giving up control. This is a case-by-case basis if somebody wants to use this new change in the ordinance.
Correct, yes.
Okay. You know, I mean, we're all members of the Ad Hoc Affordable Housing Committee, and we've been meeting for almost 2 years now, and we really haven't made a lot of changes, I mean, we've done a lot of research. This sounds like it's an opportunity that will help, you know, working families, senior citizens, you know, our young adult children who you know, are buying their first home. So there are definitely some advantages to this. When it does come up on a case-by-case basis, that goes to the zoning board first, and then the development committee, and then to this committee, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Member Toney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I want to thank Paul for paying attention to everything I've tried to teach him about this issue so that he can answer the questions the way he has. A couple of things. This did presumably come out of the Ad Hoc Solutions Committee, but it's more than that. It's about Member Desart's dream. It's about that this accessory dwelling unit not necessarily being for the kids of the family that are living in the big house, but for mom and dad to go live in the smaller house so that the kids can take the big house and kind of stay together. Just a couple things I want to point out again. This is for, if you read the ordinance, read the amendment, it's an existing dwelling unit. The dwelling unit can't exceed 1,000 square feet, which isn't that big, as we all know. It must conform to all applicable yard and building requirements. The owner must obtain a building permit. It's got to follow all of the rules and regulations. The owner has to live on the property. Can't have more than 5 unrelated people on the property. You can't lease it for less than 6 months, so it takes the Airbnbs out of it. And it's a conditional use, meaning it has to go through the zoning entitlement process. You just can't do it because you want to do it. You've got to go to building and zoning. It's got to come to development. It's got to come here. If the fire department has a problem, we'll hear about it. If somebody has a problem, we'll hear about it. The suggestions that we don't have people going out checking on these things, we don't have people going out checking on anything right now unless it's on a complaint basis. We don't have that many people. So that's a red herring. The suggestion that this can't be regulated, as I heard earlier today, is again, we've never not passed something because we thought it was going to be hard to regulate it. If that were the case, we wouldn't have speed limits because they're impossible to regulate. So regulation here is part of the process. This is something that's going on that we don't have any regulations with, that now we're going to have regulations and people are going to have to come to building and zoning and development and this committee to get done the right way. So, and ultimately, if it puts a few more people, it keeps a few more people in DuPage County for the right reasons, so much the better. So those are all my reasons for supporting it, and I hope you all will too. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Roll call, please.
Tornatori.
Aye.
You.
Aye.
Zay.
No.
Cahill. Sorry. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress.
Yes.
Covert.
Oh.
Desart. Aye. Eckhoff. No. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge.
Abstain.
And Schwarzy. Thirteen voting aye, 2 voting nay, 1 abstention.
Motion passes. Okay, thank you, Member Toney.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, and now we have Economic Development and Member LaPlante.
Thank you, Madam Chair. By way of committee update, last week we renewed our financial commitment to the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau, funding them for the fiscal year 2024. And we look forward to working closely with our community partner, DCBB, on driving and bringing tourism to DuPage County. We heard from the Executive Director, Beth Marchetti, and some of the big projects that we have that will be supporting tourism efforts include the IPW Chicago 2025 event, which is the largest travel trade show, and the President's Cup that will be at Medina and coming here in 2026. We look forward to more economic development opportunities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member LaPlante. And now we have Environmental and Member Rutledge, if you can.
Thank you, Chair Conroy. Never let it be said that I didn't have something to say, so thank you for that. Thanks to all of you about with the really deep dive into these issues today, both the ADUs and the beekeeping. I appreciate all of the conversation on that. Look for the county, or as my push to get greater habitat on our campus. We've already added a web page on our Cool DuPage to increase habitat, those kind of things, seed sales. So join me all in trying to increase habitats to allay the fears of some of the people that think that bees are going to be an issue. Last Friday morning, I'm not going to steal Paula's thunder. She has some remarks to talk about, but we were the guests of Argonne, and there was an EV Readiness award ceremony. And again, I'll let Paula, she's got prepared remarks about that, but thank you to all of the staff that worked so hard on giving us that designation.
Okay, thank you, Member Rutledge. Human Services and Member Schwarzy.
No report today.
Okay, Judicial and Public Safety, Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only update I have is that last week we had budget presentations from Chief Judge Bonnie Wheaton and Circuit Court Clerk Candace Adams. So if anybody wants to see their budget presentations for 2025, it is on. It has been recorded. Thank you.
Okay, and now to Legislative and Member Desart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank Jeremy Custer. This is the first time in the time that I've been legislative chair that I got all my stuff on Friday. So thank you so much for kicking butt and making that happen. I appreciate it. All right, so let's move on to the legislative comments. In Washington, there is a consensus among most everyone in the House and the Senate that Congress will need to pass a continuing resolution for the FY25 budget before FY24 runs out at the end of September. However, it's not known at this point for how long that funding stopgap might be. Odds are it'll be after the November election. In Springfield, the Illinois General Assembly remains adjourned until the November veto session. And I'm going to be asking for your approval for a couple of, for our contracts lobbyists in Springfield. So let me just say about them, our lobbyists really bring millions to DuPage County. They are fantastic lobbyists, and I'm so happy they're on our side. Regarding Rauchi and Sullivan strategies, in the final $53 billion package, Rauchi and Sullivan were able to protect and reapportion all DuPage County appropriations, as well as secure a few new appropriations. Specifically, there were 2 reappropriations regarding wastewater treatment plant upgrades totaling over $20 million that were successfully reappropriated in this year's financial budget. And then for our lobbyists, Marquardt and Humes, I will say that they brought in reappropriation of funds for all of DuPage County's capital projects, as well as the addition of the new capital funds for the Crisis Recovery Center. They successfully passed the DuPage County Initiative HB 5574, allowing the county to transfer existing funds from its repealed transportation capacity impact fee. They successfully advocated in conjunction with the DuPage County Public Defender's Office regarding a proposed statewide public defender initiative. And I could go on for another half hour. I will not. But these are some of the reasons I'm going to ask you to support these legislative items. So with that, I move to approve LAG-P-0003-24, a recommendation for the approval of a contract to Rauchi and Sullivan Strategies, LLC, to provide consulting services as lobbyists representing DuPage County before the Illinois General Assembly and the State Executive Branch for the period of September 1st, 2024 through August 31st, 2025 for County Board for a contract total not to exceed $52,500.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Desart.
Aye.
Eckhoff. Evans. Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. Yu.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress.
Yes.
And Covert.
Okay, Member Desart.
Thank you. And next, I move to approve LEG-P-0002-24, the recommendation for the approval of a contract to Marquardt and Humes, Inc. to provide consulting services as lobbyists representing DuPage County before the Illinois General Assembly and the State Executive Branch for the period of September 15th, 2024 through September 14th, 2025 for County Board for a contract total amount not to exceed $94,500.
Okay, roll call. We need a roll call here, please.
Desart. Aye. Eckhoff. Aye. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Aye. Garcia. Aye. Guston. Aye. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Aye. Rutledge. Aye. Schwarzy. Aye. Tornatori. Aye. Yu.
Aye.
Zay. Aye. Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress.
Yes.
And Covert.
Okay, thank you, Member Desart. Into Public Works and Member Garcia.
Thank you, Chair Conroy. For my committee update, last Friday, Environmental Committee Chair Sheila Rutledge and I represented DuPage County in receiving our designation as an EV-ready community from the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus and ComEd. This honor recognizes our efforts to prepare for the growth of electric vehicles and related infrastructure. To earn this distinction, or this designation, we evaluated our permitting process, trained staff, distributed information on electric vehicles and charging stations, and tracked vehicle and station data. The county received special commendation for our campus assessment, planning, and community engagement. DuPage County has seen a 35% increase in electric vehicles on our roads. This highlights why we sought this designation, fortifying our commitment to sustainability and our ongoing journey toward a greener future. Big thank you to our staff and to this board for helping to make this achievement possible. And there it is. So thank you to our staff. Moving on, I make a motion to approve PWCO 000424, amendment to county contract issued to ComEd for delivery of electricity to all public work facilities for Public Works for a change order to increase the contract in the amount of $10,000, taking the original contract amount of $1,468,000 and resulting in an amended contract amount not to exceed $1,478,000, an increase of 0.68%.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Garcia.
Aye.
Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
And Galassi.
Member Garcia.
I make a motion to approve PWCO 000524, amendment to the county contract issued to LAI Limited to procure Zurich valves that have reached end of life at the Woodridge Green Valley Wastewater Treatment Plant for Public Works for a change order to increase the contract in the amount of $20,000, taking the original contract amount of $82,000 and resulting in an amended contract amount not to exceed $102,000, increase of 24.39%.
Leave is granted. Member Garcia.
I make a motion to approve PWP 001824, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Mid-American Water to furnish and deliver valve and hydrant replacement parts and kits for the period of August 27, 2024 through August 26, 2025, for a total contract amount not to exceed $60,000 per lowest responsible bid.
Leave is granted. Member Garcia.
I make a motion to approve PWP 001924, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Vissering Construction Company for construction of the septage receiving tank for the septage receiving station for Public Works for the period of August 27th, 2024 to August 26th, 2025, for a total contract amount not to exceed $679,853.90.
Leave is granted. Member Garcia.
I make a motion to approve PWP 002024, recommendation for the approval of contract to Institute Form Technologies, Inc. for sandblasting, priming, and spray rehabilitating for the Emerald Lift Station for Public Works for the period of August 27th, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, for a total contract amount not to exceed $172,110.
Leave is granted. Member Garcia.
I make a motion to approve FMP 003324, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Martinez Retail Management, Inc., doing business as All Window Cleaning Services, to provide window washing services for county facilities, for facilities management for the 2-year period of August 28, 2024 through August 27, 2026, for a total contract amount not to exceed $46,700.
Leave is granted. Member Garcia.
I know, no one say leave. Somebody say leave. Somebody say leave. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Leave is granted. Member Garcia.
I make a motion to approve FMP 003424, recommendation for the approval of a contract to L. Marshall, Inc. to install safety improvements on the roof of the 505 building for facilities management for the period of August 27, 2024 through August 26, 2025, for a contract total amount not to exceed $196,650.
Leave is granted. Member Garcia.
I make a motion to approve FMP 003524, recommendation for the approval of agreement between the County of DuPage, Illinois and B3 Companies Limited to provide additional professional stormwater engineering services and engineering design for floodproofing the east and west sides of the county campus for facility management for the period of August 27, 2024 through November 30th, 2026, for a total contract amount not to exceed $394,160.
Leave is granted. Member Garcia.
I make a motion to approve FMR 000324, recommendation for the approval of agreement between the County of DuPage, Illinois and the DuPage Senior Citizens Council for a lease of space at 420 North County Farm Road, Wheaton, for facilities management for a 48-month period from January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2028, for an annual amount not to exceed $1,000.
Okay, leave is granted. Thank you, Member Garcia. Okay, Stormwater and Member Zay.
No report, Madam Chair.
Okay, Technology and Member Yu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have an update. I just want to congratulate our IT department. Our August 21 AI workshop was a great success with over 60 participants. This collaborative effort brought together county departments, elected officials, and many representatives from municipalities throughout DuPage, and it featured a dynamic panel of AI experts and government leaders who shared their insights on the future of AI in public service. There was thoughtful dialogue on the challenges and opportunities of implementing AI in government spaces, and attendees were given information and tools on the latest trends and best practices in AI. A big thank you again to everyone in the IT department who planned this event, including CIO Anthony McPherson, Debbie Deasy, and Shanita Thompson. So moving on to item 241173, I make a motion to approve amendment to resolution TEP 2-24 issued to SHI International to
Second.
incorporate migration paperwork into PO 6834-1 and encumber funds for ETSB and the county finance software in the amount of $44,138.38 for no change in the contract total amount.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Yes. Covert. Desart. Aye. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. And Tornatori.
Okay, member you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I now move on PRMS P-1-24, recommendation for the approval of contract to Delta WRX LLC to develop an RFP, evaluate responses, participate in the selection and the contract negotiations for the police records management system for the period of August 27, 2024 through August 26, 2027 for a total contract amount of $192,269.36.
Leave is granted. Thank you, member you.
Thank you, Madam.
Okay, transportation and member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for approval of DTP 004624, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Christopher B. Burke Engineering for professional Phase 1 engineering services, Part B, for improvements along the East Branch DuPage River Trail from St. Charles Road to Illinois Prairie Path for a contract total not to exceed $539,499, professional services, vetted through a qualification-based selection process.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Ozog.
Yes.
Rutledge. Aye. Schwarzy. Aye. Tornatori. Aye. You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Yes. Covert. Desart. Aye. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Aye. Garcia. Aye. Guston. Aye. Krajewski. And LaPlante.
Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of 242135, amendment to DTP 010323, issued to Christopher Burke Engineering for professional preliminary engineering services along the East Branch DuPage River Trail from Butterfield Road to the Illinois Prairie Path to increase the funding in the amount of $126,429, resulting in an amended contract total amount of $1,626,429.
Leave is granted. Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of 242146, an amendment to DTR 009023, a local agency agreement between the County of DuPage and the Illinois Department of Transportation for the East Branch DuPage River Trail to increase the county share in the amount of $126,429.
Leave is granted. Thank you, member Ozog.
Thank you.
Okay, any discussion on 242306? Seeing none. Okay, any old business? No old business. Okay, any new business? Okay, member Galassi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Really fast, we had an issue with a constituent in District 3 over the last week, and an elderly resident didn't have internet service. And I just wanted to thank staff because they were really tremendous. Joan, Jeremy even answered my text over the weekend, and Nick was also very helpful. So thank you to everyone who helped get that resolved.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, member Tornatori.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On behalf of my county board colleagues, I hope you will allow me to wish you a happy birthday, even though I know it was yesterday. And in light of that and the fact that we have both executive session and our ethics class, we need a little sugar, so I think we got some cake for you for your birthday. Have a great year.
Thank you. Oh, good God. Really?
Put in two. That's good. That's good.
Okay. Thank you, guys. I just want to say thank you. And, you know, I'm not a big birthday person, but the biggest and most wonderful gift I've ever gotten is being able to work with all of you. So thank you. And just as a sidebar, my 4 sons yesterday, I got a ding dong, and they did their football draft. So thank you. Okay, I'm informed we do have matters before us requiring us to enter into executive session. I'll ask for those not associated with executive session to please exit the room. Some matters for discussion involve pending litigation, and 2 matters are imminent or probable litigation against the County of DuPage. Based upon the information provided by counsel, I have determined that these matters are in fact probable or imminent litigation, and I ask for the board to adopt them. Let's go in. We need, hang on. And, okay. 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 Now that we are back in open session, clerk, please take the roll to ensure quorum.
Cahill, Chaplin, Childress, Covert, Desart, Eckhoff, Evans, Galassi, Garcia, Guston, Krajewski, LaPlante, Ozog, Rutledge, Schwarzy, Tornatori, Yu, and Zay.
Okay.
We have quorum.
We have a quorum. Okay, and now we are going to move to ethics training.
Madam Chair, if I may. If I may.
Are you ready?
Yes.
We're ready.
Yes, okay, I'm ready if you're ready. Today, guys, we'll have our FY24 ethics training. We have Dan Hanlon, our ethics advisor, as well as Greg Vasey, our investigator general here, and I will turn it over to them and I'll stop talking. Thank you. Dan, if you don't mind.
Okay, good afternoon. I know you're full of bee discussions and everything, so I will try to get this going as quick as possible. My name's Dan Hanlon. I'm the ethics advisor. Greg Vasey's also here. He's our investigator general. Judge Demling has done this in the past and has opened in the past, so I'll take his role. Just quickly, who's responsible for ethics compliance? It's going to be the chairman of the Ethics Commission, who is Judge Demling. We then have the members who are Todd Benson, Susan Cahalan, Michelle Clemon, and Ted Donner. The investigator general, as I said, is Greg, and I am your advisor. What's the role of the Ethics Commission? The Ethics Commission essentially meets to discuss ethics-related issues, conducts evidentiary hearings on formal investigations brought by the investigator general. We have yet to have one of those in at least all my time as the advisor, and at least as far as I know, as the Ethics Commission has existed, it has never had to have a hearing. It rules on complaints brought by the investigator general, if one is ever brought. Again, none has ever been brought, fortunately. It issues recommendations for disciplinary actions, and it imposes fines. It can impose fines up to $5,000. So I'll let Greg talk about his role.
So nothing has really changed about my job over the last couple of years. Oh, sorry. At least nothing that I've been told has changed. So let's see here. Okay, so this first slide here is basically all the duties of the investigator general. Accepts, evaluates, investigates complaints. I get them by email. Sometimes I get them by regular mail. Provides the Ethics Commission with a status report while the investigation is pending, which I have not had to do yet because I've not had an investigation of any complaint thus far, this year or the previous year. Written notice of allegations and rights to the accused. If in fact an investigation is going to go forward, if I need to get the facts from the witnesses, then I would contact the accused, the complainant, the jurisdictional authority, meaning that the employee's boss, provide written notice. Formal complaint to the Ethics Commission. At the end of this road, if an investigation is completed or a preliminary investigation and that there's reasonable cause to believe that there's something there, then there's an option of providing a formal complaint to the Ethics Commission. And the last thing would be a formal hearing. Again, we haven't gotten there yet. Complaint procedure, they have to be in writing, directed to me. Again, email. I have an email address. It's all on the website. I have gotten one by mail. but I think that's going to be rare. Reviewing the complaint and determining if the person accused is subject to the ordinance. So this is really jurisdiction. I have very narrow jurisdiction as far as what I can investigate. And Dan will go into those about the gift ban and conflicts of interest and stuff. So basically, this is the last part of when I receive a complaint. Typically, I have not had a complaint that jurisdiction existed yet. So in every response, I attempt to assist the complainant with filing a complaint somewhere else. I ask them, do you want me to send this to, for instance, if it's clearly a criminal complaint, then I'm going to tell them, we can send this to the police, or you can send it. I give them that option. And again, this is the last part. If there is jurisdiction, I inform the complainant, the respondent, the ultimate jurisdictional authority of the complaint. And that's the last thing before an investigation is started. So a preliminary investigation and determine reasonable cause, which is, whether, so if there's jurisdiction under the ordinance, do the facts rise to the level of reasonable cause or probable cause to exist a violation occurred. I can compel testimony under oath in order to determine whether reasonable cause exists. And then whatever the result is, if I determine there is reasonable cause or not reasonable cause, then I will contact the chairman, the respondent, the complainant, indicating what my findings are, either founded or unfounded. If there is a finding that there's reasonable cause to believe a violation occurred, one of the things I can do is petition the commission to file a formal complaint. So now a written formal document would be filed with the commission. They, of course, have the discretion. They can deny the petition for whatever reason and end the case, or they can authorize the petition and set a hearing within 6 weeks of that time. And then we would have basically a trial hearing where the commission would decide the outcome and also what to do if there is a finding. If you have any questions, maybe if you want to wait, ask questions now. If you have any questions on the procedure, probably best to ask them now. Great, thank you.
Okay, so what is my job? Essentially, I act as your attorney. I also advise all other county employees, anyone subject to the ordinance, which also has to do with outside agencies like the DuPage Airport Authority, the Housing Authority. I advise all of these people as to how to comply with the ordinance. I'm the guy you talk to before you take action, so you don't have to talk to Greg. I provide written opinions when you ask me to or when they're required. I'm essentially, like I said, your attorney. Anything you say to me is I consider to be protected by attorney-client privilege. I've talked to some of you already I've had the privilege of. I've been doing this for a lot of years, so over the years I've had a chance to talk to almost every board member as they've come through here. I assist in preparing materials such as this exciting presentation, the presentation that's available online, which those of you who were unable to stay today will have to take. You're required to take yearly training as a county official. All employees as well have to take yearly training. I track and monitor compliance with ethics training required under the ordinance, and then I bore you guys every year. Okay, so what does this ordinance cover? The ordinance covers the Gift Ban Act, political contributions, prohibited political activity, conflicts of interest, disregarding the ordinance, and retaliation. So hitting each of these categories real quickly one at a time, then we're going to do some questions at the end. The gift ban essentially provides that no person subject to the ordinance can accept a gift from any prohibited source. So what's a prohibited source? It's generally anyone who is doing business with your unit of government or seeking to do business with your unit of government. Prohibited gifts usually do not include gift from friends, relatives, educational or travel expenses, or any item with a cumulative value of less than $100 in a calendar year. It also does not include $75 a day for food and beverage as long as those are consumed on the premises. These dollar amounts are set by Illinois statute. Our ordinance, I believe, provides that whatever the Illinois statute says, our ordinance says, so you guys don't have to amend it every time the statute or the Illinois legislature decides to change these numbers. But these numbers have been pretty consistent over the last several years. It's been $100 and $75 for quite some time. So what is the value of a gift? The ordinance doesn't necessarily define what the value of the gift is. Generally, it's the market value. The problem is market value is not always an easy thing to determine. When you get the ticket, let's say it's a sports ticket. When you get it might determine the value is greatly higher or lower than the actual number on the ticket. White Sox tickets are going for nothing right now, and I'm a huge White Sox fan. You could basically get a season pass for $100 cumulative total year. And again, I'm a huge White Sox fan, but that's essentially, it becomes a question. And if you ever have any doubts, if someone, is offering you a gift and you have any doubts, before you accept that gift, give me a call. Say, Dan, this is what's going on, or give me an email. My information is available. It'll be at the end of this presentation, but it's also on the website as well. I'll be glad to answer your questions. I try to turn those questions around pretty quickly. This is not my only job, but I do tend to get your questions answered pretty quickly because I know you're usually in a time crunch. Again, when in doubt, take a step back. How am I going to be proceeded if I do this? Would I be worried about this being in the Daily Herald with my name next to it? Those are the questions you got to ask yourself, and the answer is yes. Don't do it, okay? But if you're ever in doubt, just give me a call. Political contributions. Campaign contributions may not be solicited, offered, or accepted on public property, which is basically where you're sitting now. Procurement must request a listing of campaign contributions to county officers from any vendor with more than $25,000 in county contracts. And the ordinance requires compliance with section 9-8.5 of the election code and its limitations. So I'm going to put those limitations on this screen here. I'm sure all of you or most of you know what these are, but these are the essentially state statute requires or prohibits contributions in excess of these amounts on the screen. These are available, again, in the code, and these numbers have changed or do change depending on the election cycle. So if you feel like you've had a recent election, you're running again, your next election, you always want to confirm that these numbers haven't changed. Prohibited political activity. It's generally having employees or anyone subject to the ordinance performing what's defined as prohibited political activity in the code during their compensated time, which is a big component of it. Most prohibited political activity is going to involve fundraising activities, meeting planning, electioneering. No person may require a reward an employee for participation in political activity. You also obviously then can't punish someone for not participating in your political activity. You cannot use public property or public resources in furtherance of any prohibited political activity. And no solicitation of campaign contributions on public property. So this essentially goes back to that first point I made. Next area that the ordinance covers is conflicts of interest. It's a conflict of interest whenever any official action could result in a personal advantage or disadvantage to the interested person. This is one of the areas I do get a lot of questions on because all of you sitting in here, not all of you, but most of you, this is not the only occupation you have. Sometimes you have outside interests. Sometimes those could leak into your job here. That's when you want to call me and make sure there's not an issue. Officers and employees must avoid conflicts of interest. You have to disclose your financial interest. You have to disclose any future employment offers. There's also some other future employment offer situations that you have to preclude yourself or prevent yourself from getting involved in before you make sure it's not an issue. Prior employment relationships may need to be disclosed at certain times, and you can never use inside information, which is basically any information that's not available to the general public. If you have a conflict or you believe you might have a conflict, you have to notify in writing me immediately. And an email is sufficient. My email address, again, is on the website. I will then give you a written opinion. I'm required by the ordinance to give you a written opinion as to whether a conflict exists. I will not disclose that written opinion to anybody unless you ask me to, but you should maintain a copy of that written opinion in case anybody ever calls you out on the fact that you may have a conflict. No, look what Dan said. Here's my written opinion. I don't have a conflict. Obviously, if I say you don't have a conflict, you can hold that up. If you do have a conflict and you ignored me, then you will be talking to Greg. If the ethics advisor, if I determine that a conflict exists, you're going to have to abstain from any discussions or deliberations, and you may not vote on any contract with any person or entity involved in the conflict. A good rule of thumb is to make sure you disclose your conflict, stand up and say, I'm abstaining based on a conflict, leave the room. It's better not to stay in the room just to avoid any appearance. General other unethical behaviors under the ordinance are interfering with an investigation, which is failure to cooperate, providing false information. You can't retaliate against any whistleblowers under the ordinance. And now we're going to get into some questions. I'm going to give you some A, B, C, D answers generally. Just shout out what you think is right. Some of these questions are you've heard or seen before, and I guarantee you still will get wrong. A county vendor invites you to attend its annual client appreciation event at no cost to you or the county. This vendor has had an ongoing contract with the county for 20 years, and its product is unique in that no other vendor could provide this product to the county. The event is held in Las Vegas, and only those clients that spend over a certain threshold, such as the county, are invited to attend. Is it okay to accept this invitation from the vendor? Oh, whoa. I didn't even give you your options yet. A, yes, you can accept because this is the only vendor that submits a bid in response to the RFP, as they're the only source for this product. B, no, you cannot accept because the vendor is a prohibited source and the event would constitute a gift with a value in excess of $100. C, yes, you can accept because you are afraid the vendor would feel slighted by you rejecting this offer. Or D, you cannot accept because you are a very unlucky gambler and will likely lose more personal funds at the slot machines. A, B, C, D. Can you accept? B? Any non-Bs? 75 is food and drink. Gift is $100, cumulative for the year. So I hear Bs. Bs have it. Okay. The reason is, gift is determined as, this is obviously a gift because it's something that has a fair cash market value. The trip to Vegas is going to have many facets of it being a gift. 2473 prohibits a family member living with you from accepting a gift. So even if this was offered to, for example, your spouse, it would be an issue for them to accept. 2474 contains exceptions to the prohibition, including any item from any one prohibited source during a calendar year, and that amount right now is $100. This would clearly exceed that amount. Following up on this, rather than a client appreciation event, the same vendor invites you to a conference wherein you will be providing its current prospective government, clients information on an improved product which could greatly benefit the county. Are you allowed to accept it? Yes, no, or maybe? It's still going to be that same well over $100 figure. Oh, it'll be well in excess of $100. Clearly, it's a gift that exceeds the amount you're allowed to accept. I hear a lot of no's. Generally, it's going to be maybe if I put the word maybe on the board. There's a lot of factors that are going to go into this. First consideration is whether the vendor is actually providing you with a gift. If the county would be paying for the travel, and I did say in this case it is a gift, but if the county were paying for it, it's not a gift. It's just an invite. But the answer still holds true. Assuming they were paying for it, there's a determination that has to be made as whether there's an exception to the gift ban. There's a couple exceptions that would apply here. One is educational material emissions and travel expenses relating to meetings to discuss official governmental business. That's probably the one that would most apply here. So in a situation like this, you'd want to reach out to me and say, this is what's going on, this is where we're at. I would ask you questions like, did the board approve this travel? If that's the case, then it's likely something that the county board has decided, yes, this is a mission that's worth you going on, have at it. Factors to include are, again, has the trip been approved? What's the agenda at the conference? If it's only 5 minutes, that benefits the county, and the other 3 days have nothing to do with the county, and it's a $10,000 gift, I'd probably tell you it's not. It would violate the ordinance. Who will be in attendance at the conference? Is it other county board members from other counties? If it's something similar to that, I would say that lends more to it being a permissible gift. Where's the conference located? Again, Vegas is going to be one that'll raise my ears a little more than Des Moines. No offense to Des Moines, but those are two different locations. And what's the value of the gift? Is it a $100,000 gift to the Bahamas, or is it a hotel at a Best Western in Des Moines? Now that I picked on Des Moines. So question 2, Same county vendor is also a vendor that supplies your family-owned business with its product. This vendor on an annual basis takes its top clients to Wally World every year as a thank you. This vendor does not send the invitation to your county email address, but rather to your private business email address. Can you accept this invitation? Well, again, I didn't even give the options yet. Yes, you can accept because it's being provided to you as a private citizen and therefore the gift ban does not apply. Yes, you can accept because you despise Wally Moose and are only accepting to have an excuse not to attend the fundraiser of a fellow board member. You cannot accept because any gift exceeding $100, no matter who it's from or why it was given, is a violation of the gift ban section because you're elected officials. Or D, maybe. So we're back to maybe now. I hear C and D. It's a maybe. Okay, again, exception to the gift ban to accept food, refreshment, lodging, transportation, or transportation resulting from outside business activities. So if this is given to you solely because of your outside business activities, you can accept it. Doesn't matter that you're an elected official. You cannot accept it, though, if it's being provided to you because you're an elected official. Now, there's going to be some factors that go into this, okay? Has this individual invited you on this trip before you were a county board member? If they've had this for 15 years and this is the first time now that you're a newly elected county board member that they say, hey, we're going to extend this invitation to you, it's going to raise some red flags. Are you being treated the same as others in your situation? So does your company buy the same amount as the other people that are there, or are they 10 times the amount of your purchases versus what your company does? That's going to go into it. Do you have knowledge that they're seeking some consideration from the board for some actions in the future? If they've got a RFP that they've submitted and they're hoping to get approval from this board, and all of a sudden the invite comes to you, that's going to raise some red flags. So following up on that, while you're on the trip, you learn that the other attendees have purchased a much larger volume than you or than your company from this vendor. The vendor's CFO, after having too much to drink, casually mentions that you were only invited because he has a contract coming up for approval with the board. What do you do at this point? So you can A, thank him for the invite, kidnap security guard with a BB gun, and hopefully it overshadows your violations of the ethics ordinance. You can donate an amount equal to the value of the trip to a qualifying charitable organization. C, you can return from the trip immediately at your own expense and do nothing more. Or D, you pay the vendor an amount equal to the value of the trip. A, B, C, D. D? I hear C's and D's. I hear a B. Thought I heard Mr. Eckhoff mumble B. I think the B's have it. The B's have it. It's a big B day here today. You cannot, although it would make sense to be able to pay the vendor back, you can't do that. It's not allowed under the ordinance. The ordinance basically only allows you to either not accept the gift before you take it, or to pay a charitable organization the value of the gift. Now, in this situation, if something like this ever occurs, you realize after the fact that, hey, I shouldn't have accepted that gift. I'm going to donate the amount. Make sure you keep your receipt. Make sure you staple it to, if it was an event ticket that exceeded the dollar amount that you shouldn't have accepted. Staple it to the event ticket. Just keep your evidence together just in case it ever comes up. Then you can say, hey, while I realized after the fact this is what I did to correct it, and I'm allowed to do this under the ordinance. Okay? I believe I just touched on all of these, so we could skip right through that. Okay, question 3. After a county board meeting, while you are backing out of your assigned space in the county parking garage, county board member A calls you and lets you know that member A would like to donate to your campaign and will give you a check when they see you at a mutual friend's birthday party. Has member A violated the ethics ordinance? A, no, because you are not a prohibited source and therefore member A can make donations to you. B, maybe. It all depends on where member A was when the conversation took place. C, yes, the member A is violated because it's a violation to offer to make campaign contributions while performing the duties of a county board member. Oh, look at that. I thought I had a D. See, maybes. The maybes have it. It depends on several things, but it's improper, as I said, for a official or for anyone to make an offer while on county property. The fact that, they were acting in their duties as a board member at the time doesn't matter anymore. It did at one point. The board amended the ordinance many years ago to take out officials from compensated time, basically, because you're always on duty. So it'd be hard to determine when a county board member can and cannot solicit or ask for donations. So that's been changed, but it's improper to offer. So it really matters where the board member was when they made the donation. If, for example, you were at a local municipal village hall for a meeting, that would also be a violation to turn to another board member because that is public property. So it really matters where the property is and what it's being used for. If it was being used for a golf outing that was being rented out by, so if it was, well, I'll get to that in a second. I think I have a question on that. So it applies to all public property. Same scenario, did you violate the ethics ordinance when member A offered to make a campaign contribution to you while you were both on county property? No. I'll give you that answer right there. If you accepted while you were in the car, then you violated. So what you ought to do in that situation is, I can't talk about this right now. I'm still in the parking garage. I'll call you when I get a chance, okay? Don't engage in the discussion. Just politely say, I can't because of where I'm at, okay? Easy fix. Would there be a violation if you and member A were at Arrowhead, which is owned by the Wheaton Park District, during a friendly round of golf while a political fundraiser was taking place on a different part of the course? A, no, because the only violation that took place was your golf swing. B, no, the offer was being made based on personal friendship. C, yes, because the offer was made on public property. Or D, yes, contributing to a fellow board member creates the appearance of favoritism. The offer was made on public property. Okay, so in general, the ordinance prohibits soliciting, accepting, offering, or making campaign contributions on public property. Were you a part of that political fundraiser? That offer would have been okay, because that's being rented privately by an organization. Okay, but the fact that you were on public property, not a part of the political fundraiser, made it a violation. Question 4. Prior to turning in your nominating petitions and during a break in a county board meeting, you ask a county employee who is a close friend of yours to take a quick look at your petitions to see if there are any glaring problems and the employee complies. Have you violated the ethics ordinance? Yes, you cannot direct county employees to perform campaign work during compensated time, and reviewing petitions obviously is prohibited political activity. No, you have not violated because the county employee is your friend and was looking at your petitions in the ordinary course of their employment. C, you have not violated. Simply reviewing your petitions is not considered prohibited political activity. Or D, maybe. It all depends on whether the employee, you provide the employee with some benefit. A, B, C, D. I hear A's and D's. And it froze. Oh, did it work? It's A's. It's a violation of the ethics ordinance of campaign. Well, did I go too far? I went way too far. All right, don't look at that. Here we go. You cannot direct county employees to perform campaign work during compensated time. Reviewing a nominating petition is clearly considered political activity. It really matters on how you ask as well. If you ask somebody, can you do me a favor tonight when you get home, can you take a look at these? That's not a violation. Okay? Unless you then reward them for that work by voting for an increase in pay or a promotion, something along those lines. But you got to be careful on how you ask if you were to ask. Obviously, it's better practice not to ask at all, but if you wanted them to review, they did it as a friend, you want to do it while they're off duty, just to make it safe. They're not working. Call them that night. Do me a favor, can you look at these, buddy? But don't do it while they're working. And if you do it while they're working, make sure you tell them that they can't do it while they're working. Question 5. Immediately after a county board committee meeting is adjourned, you stand up and remind everyone in the room, none of whom live in your district, to remember to vote, to have their friends vote for you on election day. Have you violated the ethics ordinance? Yes, it's a violation of the ethics ordinance to campaign for elective office on county property. B, maybe. C, no, there is no prohibition on elected officials campaigning as long as public property resources are not used. Or D, yes, even elected officials cannot campaign while on government property. A, B, C, D. D's, and I heard a B. Anyone else? There is no prohibition on elected official campaigning as long as public resources and property are not used. If anyone can walk through the building and say, please vote for me, you're also allowed to. You just can't go to the copier that's paid for by the county, print off a bunch of your pictures, and hand them out to everybody and say, give these to your friends and vote. That's a use of the county's public resource. You're using their paper, using the ink. You can't do that. All right. Again, your elected official position, you're always presumed to be representing the people of DuPage County, so it'd be impossible to define what's compensated time for you. So you're allowed to campaign at all times. You can, say, vote for me or please vote for me no matter where you're at. You just can't ask for funds depending on where you're at if it's public property. Question 6, and we're getting close to the end here. One evening out while enjoying a cocktail with your friends, you get coerced into singing karaoke in front of a room full of people. Former county vendor approaches you when you were done and tells you that they would like to use your singing voice in an upcoming local commercial they are shooting. You invite them to sit down and you discuss the terms of your possible future employment. Have you violated the ethics ordinance by doing this? A, no. You are free to discuss future employment with any prospective employer as long as you do not accept it without confirming it would not be a conflict. No, you have not violated since the vendor does not currently have a contract with the county. No violation exists. C, yes, you violated. Since you are a county board member, you are never allowed to discuss future employment with any potential county vendor. D, no, since it would be a crime to deny the world the opportunity to hear you sing. A, B, C, D. I hear D's, C's. Anyone else? I thought there was a maybe. I was going to say, I know I have a maybe to this. What about now? E? Anybody say E? Anybody say E? Let's say E. 2-481 provides that no person may accept or discuss an offer of future employment with any individual or business entity doing or seeking to do business with the governmental entity you serve. So if this individual either has a contract coming up or may have a contract coming up, it's a violation. Okay, you want to essentially say, hey, I got to talk to the ethics advisor about this. I also have to find out whether you're doing any business with the county or you plan on doing any business with the county before I can even discuss this with you. Just politely withdraw yourself from the conversation, get your information, do your due diligence, and then you can re-engage in that discussion. We talked about that. Question 7. You and your campaign create and maintain a personal political website. You include on this website a link to the county's official website, which provides your bio. Have you violated the ethics ordinance? No, you haven't violated because the material used by you was available for use by the public. Yes, you violated because the bio page was produced using governmental time and resources. No, you haven't violated because use of your bio page is permissible because no member of the public has ever clicked on your county bio link. And yes, you violated because use of the bio page constitutes theft of county intellectual property. A, B, C, D. Sounds unanimous. Yeah, generally anything that the public can use, you can use. If it's foiable, it's something you can use. You cannot and should not ask for something to be created for purposes of your political gain. So you can't say, can you do me a favor and put together a list of things I voted on and whether they were approved or not so I can put that on my website? That would be a violation. But if that was already in existence, you would be able to use that link or that document in your, on your website. We talked about that. Following up on that, after a county board meeting, you requested that a county employee review your campaign website to confirm that it contains no resources that are not available to the general public. Have you violated the ethics ordinance? This goes back to our original question. No, you haven't violated. They're merely looking to determine whether you are in violation of the ethics ordinance. Yes, it is a violation of the ethics ordinance to utilize resources for your campaign website. C, no. County employees are free to search the internet all day without repercussions. Or D, maybe. Lots of B's. Maybe. It's a maybe. It really, again, it goes back to how you asked, when you asked, and what you said. Okay, so you just got to be careful about the way you say things and when you say them and how you say them. All right, any questions?
I have a question. I have two, actually. I was told a long time ago, got elected.
Right.
You couldn't use in your campaign material.
No,
How is that different than what you just told?
I disagree with that opinion.
Okay.
And I don't know if I ever told you that, did I?
No, I don't think it was you. I think it was
Yeah,
somebody
because
on our staff.
for example, your opponent could use that picture. Not that they would, because it's an incredible picture of you, I'm sure. But, they could use that picture, so there's no reason you couldn't.
Well, that's good. My second, well, yeah, it was. Well, it was taken by somebody hired by the county. Yes. Well, I understand.
For example, what you can't do, for example, is if this room is locked when you're not in it, which I assume it isn't, I don't believe you would be able to, or you should be able to, have county staff take the time to open up this room for a photo op. If it was open to the public, sure, outside in the hallway, I think you'd be fine. But that goes into the use of resources that others might not be allowed to use. So if I couldn't call up somebody to say, open up this door for me, I want to take some pictures in here, then you shouldn't be able to do that for your.
Well, that picture is usually taken the night.
No, yeah, no, that I believe you can use.
Yeah, okay. And the second question is, the gift band's $100.
Yes.
But the food and drink is $75 a day.
As long as it's consumed on premises.
So that seems a little inconsistent. If you eat $75 a day for 10 days, you can take $750.
This is what the Illinois legislature has determined to be
I just want
proper.
to make sure that.
As long as it's consumed on premises.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, you got to
Yes.
be eating every day, I guess. Drink.
Thanks, Dan. Made my living as a portrait photographer, so if we contracted that photographer to produce the pictures for the county, they still own the copyright on that image unless it's an agreement with the county.
And to sort of put a footnote on your question, I'm only talking about ethics violations. There could be intellectual property issues that come into play. For example, I believe the county's logo may be copyrighted, so there may be an issue with using that. But that could be an issue with everybody using that. So it's more of a what everybody else can do, you can do situation. And if nobody else can use it because it's copyrighted, then you're in the same boat. But it's not a violation of the ethics ordinance. And I'm only here for ethics purposes. Yes?
So somebody who is running for office should not be, and I didn't do this, but you should not put the county seal on your political.
Not without.
No. That you would not have. Right, I'm not doing that, I promise. Just a thought.
To be clear, it's not a violation of the ethics ordinance. That it? All right. Thank you all.
Okay, I'll take a motion
I
to.
think attorneys are getting CLE credit, so I assume that's why some of you stayed.
Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn this meeting. All in favor? This meeting is adjourned till Tuesday, September 10th, 2024 at 10 a.m.